Good evening. Being 6 o'clock, I call to order the Westborough Select Board meeting called here on Tuesday, May 13th, 2025. I'd like to ask all those that are able if you want to rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Just real quick couple updates to the agenda this evening. Items 8 and items 9 related to the local action units application for 2 Dania Drive in Village Commons, and the request to waive sewer privilege fees for affordable units at Village Commons will be passed over and put on next select board meetings agenda. So those are items 8 and 9 on the agenda if anybody's following along. So at this point, I would open the floor for anybody here for open forum. Yes, please. Please come forward and speak your name. And if you can lean into the microphone just so folks can hear, that'd be great.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mayur Bakhai, and thank you for giving me the opportunity today to speak here. I'm here to share something truly special happening right here in Westborough, a chance for all of us to come together, support our neighbors, and make a real difference. So on May 31, Saturday, BAPS Charities will host its annual walk-run event in Westborough at 275 Turnpike Road behind the Westborough Toyota dealership. This is not just a walk, it's a celebration of a spirit of service that defines the town and its people. I invite each one of you to please join us. This will make our event truly special. BAPS Charities is a global organization powered by volunteers who dedicate their time and energy serving others, both locally and around the world. Over 1,000 walkathons have been conducted all over the country since the past 10 years. And Westborough is a local chapter of this BAPS Charities National Organization. This year, Walk in Westborough has a special local focus. We are going to be supporting the Westborough Food Pantry as a local beneficiary. Every dollar raised will help ensure that no family in our community goes hungry. By participating, you are not just walking or running, you are standing with the neighbors and showing that Westborough cares. Event also offers sponsorship opportunities for local businesses and organizations. So I just want to invite you all. We have 330 registrations already on the website, and we still have about 18 days to go. So we are hoping that number crosses 400, and we would truly be delighted if you can make it. The select board as well as the members of the town, it's open for all. If you have any questions, please let me know. I have few flyers with me that I'm going to leave here, which has the registration and donation links to it.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Saturday, May 31st, and the timing on that?
Right. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. It's 9 to 12.
9 to 12. Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I can take those. Thank you.
Great. Is there anybody else here for open forum? Okay, seeing none, we will move to agenda item 2, which is the Worcester Regional Transit Authority, WRTA, Mobility Management Program. We'll have our Senior and Social Services Director lead us off. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kendra Feldetta. I'm the Senior and Social Services Director. I'm actually also going to welcome Nick Burnham from the WRTA. He is going to be helping me give the presentation tonight.
Perfect.
Come on.
Don't be shy.
All right. So to start us off, I want to talk a little bit about the current van service that the town of Westborough offers through the Senior Center. We currently provide transportation within town, except for designated grocery shopping trips out of town. On rare occasion, we are able to transport people to medical appointments outside of town, but that's pretty unusual. So the service is offered 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday. There's a fare of $1 per trip, and if you have an aide that is riding with you, that aide is able to ride for free. All of the rides are scheduled by the Senior Center staff, meaning that people call the Senior Center directly, and we are the ones that are building the daily schedule. And the rides must be scheduled by noon on the business day before the ride is needed. So we currently own 3 vans. We have a large 20-passenger van that requires a CDL to drive. It is wheelchair accessible. We have a medium-sized 15-passenger van that is also wheelchair accessible, and we have a small residential-style van that is accessible but cannot take a wheelchair or a walker. The vans typically do not leave town except for designated shopping trips or day trips. At this time, the COA cannot transport to Worcester or UMass Marlborough Hospital for medical appointments, and passengers are brought to either Market Basket or Stop and Shop 1 day a week for grocery shopping. The current van fleet will not be used for WRTA service and will be available for special shopping trips or events that the Senior Center may plan. We also currently have a volunteer driver program. This is for residents who need access to medical appointments outside of Westborough. There is a small volunteer network that is able to transport people. This program is unlikely to continue in its present form due to liability concerns and a declining volunteer pool. However, the WRTA model is expected to meet the transportation needs of those this program was intended to serve. I also want to highlight that if we make the switch to the WRTA, it is the Senior Center's goal to keep most of the volunteers that are interested in volunteering on and have them ride the bus as an aide with someone who's going grocery shopping or to a medical appointment. So still using the same people, just in a different way.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nick Burnham. I'm the Director of Operations and Planning for WRTA. Also with me is Josh Rickman, our Administrator, and Tom Coyne, our Deputy Administrator and CFO. So thank you to Kendra and Christy for bringing us out here tonight. We're thrilled to be here. So just a little bit about WRTA. So we are based in Worcester. Tom, Josh, and I are based in downtown Worcester next to Union Station. So Worcester Regional Transit Authority is one of 15 transit authorities throughout the Commonwealth. And Worcester, our service area is the city of Worcester and 36 communities. Thank you so much. And 36 communities, basically southern central Worcester County, if that makes sense. In neighboring Southborough, they're part of the Metro West Regional Transit Authority, which is based out of Framingham. So just kind of to show you where the boundary is, Westborough is right at the edge of our service area. So we are the second largest transit authority in Massachusetts behind Pioneer Valley and Springfield. We have what we call fixed route buses, which are more centralized towards Worcester, the large 35, 40-foot buses. We have over 50 of those, as well as we have over 50 of what we call our paratransit vans. They're a little bit smaller than the ones the COA currently operates from the prior slide, and I'll show you a picture of what our vans look like as we get further in this presentation. So primarily, we have what we call our fixed route through the buses and what we call paratransit or demand response through our van service. And I'll talk a lot more about the van service further on. But just to highlight, one of the things that WRTA has been proud of is that we're entering our 5th year being fare-free. Our advisory board has voted annually to continue a suspension of the fare policy. So all of our rides, if you choose to come on board with us, are fare-free through June 30 of 2026, so the upcoming state fiscal year. So what is proposed in Westborough is starting on July 1st, if everything goes to fruition, is that the Westborough Council on Aging would be a partner with WRTA and provide transportation to seniors, anyone over the age of 60, or anybody with a disability regardless of age. So we offer this already in 10 of our contract directly, with 10 other councils on aging, Northborough being one. And Westborough already has a little bit of service provided through the WRTA through that arrangement with the Northborough Council on Aging. It's a historic relationship that predates a lot of us, going back to the old Avcoa, Assabet Valley days prior to almost 20 years ago. So there is a little bit of familiarity. Last I checked, I think there were about 12 to 15 people in town in Westborough that are already registered and able to use our service through that relationship with Northborough. But if this plan comes to fruition, what would happen is Westborough COA would be a partner with WRTA. WRTA would have 2 vehicles here, branded vans, that the Westborough COA would operate on WRTA's behalf. And through that van service, we'll be able to provide people with, that independence, not totally different from what the COA provides now, but the additional part is that we be providing that medical transportation outside of Westborough, which is what we've heard is desperately needed from the community. So beginning on July 1st, things that would stay the same, again, the service that people over the age of 60 or those who have a disability now are used to would be provided in just a different fashion through the WRTA. And there would still be service available to and from the senior center and, Roach Brothers, places around town that people are already used to going to. The things that will be different is that WRTA, what we call our mobility management model, it's essentially a shared dispatch. So everything is handled except for the driving, that the operators are hired and employed by the town of Westborough. Everything else is handled by the WRTA. So we have a paratransit and customer service office in downtown Worcester that takes all the calls. They do all the scheduling, all the contact on behalf of Westborough. That frees up Kendra, that frees up Kendra's staff to be able to attend to other needs within the senior center. Everything's handled for transportation through WRTA. So the other thing is that riders will call our paratransit office not only to register, but they'll call to make a reservation for their trip. They can call up to 4:30 p.m. the day prior. So if someone needs to go to Southborough Medical tomorrow at noon, as long as they're able to call our office up to 4:30 the day before, they're able to schedule that trip. Because Westborough would be new, there would be a little bit of a registration curve. But in talking with Kendra, some outreach events we could do, we can bring our staff out here to help kind of pre-register people ahead of July 1 so that not everyone's calling on July 1st trying to get service.
Just sorry.
Sure.
So once somebody is registered, you don't have to re-register every time you call. It's just a one-time procedure.
Thank you for that. Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that will be different too is that riders will receive an automated call the night before. So if they do have that trip to Southborough Medical tomorrow at noon, they'll get a call, an automated call from our office at 8:30 the night before. I believe the cutoff is 9 p.m. so that they have their pickup window. So say that trip schedule you made was for noon, you'll get an automated call saying, your pickup window is between 11:35 and 11:55 a.m. or something along those lines. And the other big change for riders would be the fact that they now can receive that out-of-town service to Shrewsbury, Northborough, and Worcester, all primarily for medical. Medical is always the first priority. Everything else can be accommodated on a space-needed basis. And because we're on that fringe service area I was talking about before, we understand that it's an imaginary boundary between Westborough and Southborough, but there is the need to get to places like Southborough Medical and UMass Marlborough to the main hospital. So the communities of Southborough and Marlborough won't be accessible through this service, but we are able to provide service directly to Southborough Medical and to UMass Marlborough. So it'd just be those specific points of interest. So the hours of operation is proposed to be Monday through Thursday, 8:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. And then Friday would be 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. with a limitation of in-town trips only. So how to enroll and book trips? Again, enrolling with us is free and relatively easy. And like Kendra had said, once you are registered in. So when people do call, the information is in the system. People will know our call takers will know who is contacting to make trips and so on and so forth. Our office is open 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. So if people need to make trip reservations on a Monday, they need to call it in by 4:30 p.m. on a Friday. You can't make any trip requests up to 7 days in advance, but we do offer something that's called like a subscription service. So often we do see this with people who have dialysis because they have their appointments pre-scheduled for months on end, or if somebody has a disability that works part-time at Roach Brothers that has a set schedule, they could set that a month in advance, and then they would just have to call every month to renew that subscription for the next month. And again, because we're proposing this service to start July 1st, we'll have riders in Westborough be able to call our office starting the week of June 23rd to be able to start registering and book their trips for July 1 and beyond. And again, all rides are free. There's no cash, there's no cards, there's no system for anybody to have to worry on. The van just shows up and they're able to get on. So just highlighting the fact about the service area again. So this is a picture of one of our vans. The vans that are used for this service are either an 8-passenger, which is the one that's pictured here, or a 12-passenger van. We don't have vans that are above the 12-passenger because if it goes over a 14-passenger threshold, the town has to hire somebody with CDL requirement, and that is very difficult in this current stage to find. So the vans are either this one shown or one that's just a little bit bigger. The 8-passenger vans can fit 8 passengers and 2 wheelchairs, or 12-passenger vans can fit up to 3 wheelchairs. So the seats just kind of can fold down, consolidate, and we have a mechanical lift that the drivers are trained to use in order to get people safely on and off the van. But we also contract with a service provider to provide overflow using taxi cabs. Those are not accessible, but our office and having people pre-registered that know this client needs a wheelchair or this client uses a walker or something of those, they would not put those clients in a taxi cab because of their limitation. So just real quick through this, what riders can expect on their trip. As Kendra mentioned about kind of a volunteer, using the current volunteers to help is what we call either personal care assistants or companions. They're always able to ride with our passengers. We do ask that they are provided their information when they call ahead. That's something our paratransit office will work with passengers to kind of help streamline. And I talked earlier about the automated call. Again, just want to reiterate that passengers do get that automated call. We also have some magnets here that I think we're going to have around that have our number on it, our paratransit number, and our after hours number on it so that people will know who to call in case of what. And we also just ask that people limit the items that they try to carry on. It's not a taxi cab service. This is a shared ride van service. We typically try to get 3-4 passengers on the van at one time. So unfortunately, we can't have people with 8, 10, 12 grocery bags because it's very limited space.
Which is, that's also a rule that the senior center vans have now. You have to, what you bring on, you are supposed to also carry off on your own.
Yeah. So this is talking about the budget and the reimbursement process. So how this works is that the WRTA enters into a contract with the town. This is something that I had referenced earlier. We already do this with 10 other communities, Shrewsbury and Northborough also being similar communities nearby. So what it is the town is reimbursed for the agreed upon operational expenses within the budget. So for fiscal year 2026, because this is a new service, not only for Westborough, but it's a new one for WRTA, typically what we do is the reimbursement is for driver wages, the associated FICA, payroll taxes, fuel, the insurance for the vehicles, and cell phones because of the communication that is needed between not only the COA and the drivers, but also our office and the drivers as well. So the drivers, again, would be part-time employees for the town of Westborough. This is not unique from a WRTA perspective. This is something we see in, I believe, 8 out of the 10 communities that we have COA service through. So it's some communities choose to do it different. Every community is different. So how the reimbursements work is that the COA will fill out a monthly operations report that gets sent to the WRTA, and it's reviewed by our staff accountant, and by the 15th of the following month, and then a check is cut at the end of the month back to the town. So this slide is regarding the annual assessments. So one of the things that's unique in Westborough is what's called the MBTA assessment. So how it works for funding this service is Westborough will be assessed through the cherry sheet process through the Mass Department of Revenue. It's an annual sheet, I guess, annual spreadsheet, online database, whatever you would like to call it. But how it works is that the assessments, are done 2 years in arrears. So for this new service, if it were to start in fiscal year 2026, this wouldn't show up on the town's cherry sheet until 2028. This is something we've seen for years and years. So for fiscal 25, to just put it in perspective, Westborough is assessed both by the MBTA and the WRTA. The cherry sheet has a distinct line item for the MBTA, and then right after it is the RTA line item. So the MBTA's assessment is based on the town's weighted share of the total population within the MBTA's district of 175 communities. So fiscal year 2025, you were assessed just a little under $150,000. And the WRTA's assessment is based on an annual cost allocation of the existing service that was provided to the town in that fiscal year. So in FY25, you were assessed just a little over $10,000 for the services that WRTA had already provided to the town. Per Mass General Laws, Chapter 161A, when the town has an MBTA assessment and formally belongs to an RTA, the RTA is able to add service in that community using the available MBTA assessment funds. So the way the cherry sheet is, it says if you're assessed 150 grand for the MBTA, the town has to pay that either to the MBTA or per Mass General Law, some of those funds can be flexed essentially over to the WRTA, and the WRTA can then provide additional service to the community. So from our perspective, and I would say likely from the town's perspective, this is a huge benefit because there's increased service to the town. You're not just paying this assessment off to the MBTA and there's nothing on the street in your own town. But if the cost does exceed the MBTA assessment, the town's assessment to the RTA would increase subsequently. And then annual cost increases are just part of the nature. So those would also be added to the town's assessment as well. And for this slide, I don't know, is you or Kim? Sure.
So the WRTA's reimbursement of operational expenses, which are the driver's wage, payroll taxes, fuel, and insurance costs, and direct funding / provision of van maintenance and repair, as well as driver training, are expected to cover the agreed upon cost of operating the service. The town expects to continue to offer COA transportation using its own vans, albeit on a more limited basis, and will continue to budget for associated costs, payroll, vehicle insurance, fuel maintenance, etc. That would look like if we were having a special event that was outside of the WRTA's window of operation at the senior center. We could still, using senior center funds, have a van on the road providing transportation to and from something like that. So the town currently collects fares from its riders, $2,550 estimated in FY 2026. However, those revenues are expected to decrease substantially, understanding the town would only collect revenue if it chooses to for rides provided on the COA vans. The town anticipates maintaining a pool of part-time, non-benefited drivers whose weekly schedules may include a mix of both driving WRTA and COA vans, and their time will be tracked and billed to the WRTA or charged to the senior center budget accordingly.
Thank you. So for the next steps from here, we're here tonight to present all this to you all for information. And the board, I believe, is going to be asked to support implementation of this program to be effective July 1st. In terms of public outreach and what marketing essentially will do for the next 6 weeks or so until we get to July 1st, is there will be an information session at the Council on Aging on June 1st from 12 to 1:30 p.m. And then again on Monday, June 16th, across the street at the Great Hall from the same time period from 12 o'clock to 1:30. And working with Kendra and Kim, certainly WRTA can help with any other events, provide some materials. Like I said, we have a stack of magnets. I can definitely send you more. And we'll work with Kendra and Christy and Kim and others on additional outreach that the town feels may be needed to specific locations. So with that, thank you again for having us. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Perfect. Thank you, Nick. And Kendra, thank you for that. Questions from the board?
Can I add just one thing?
Yep.
One of the things that we wanted to highlight as well is that transportation was a common theme within the senior needs assessment when we were looking at areas that we can improve in. And actually we did have at least one person who participated in that assessment specifically ask us to look at this program. So I know Kristen Belanger, as our assistant town planner, has been working with WRTA on other transportation programs in the community. And so Kim and I got connected with them earlier this year. We were lucky enough that when Kendra came on board, she already had experience with it, so we're able to get us to this point.
Great. Thanks, Christy. Yes.
Quick. So, as the liaison to the Council on Aging, I was at their meeting yesterday, presented in front of the entire Council on Aging, and at the end they voted unanimously to support this. Well done. Thank you very much. And they did have some questions afterwards that were all answered, and I would put this out to the members as to what questions they may have, but it was, I think, very well received yesterday by the Council on Aging.
Thank you for that. Other questions? Patrick?
Sure. Yes. Go ahead. Let me jump on board here first. So I just want to be clear here. If you can go back a couple of slides. In our packet, while you're going back, there's a slide that Kendra, you spoke to about the combination of the current services and this service. In our packet, it talks about the opportunity to significantly expand transportation services, and we heard that loud and clear that is a need in our senior survey several months ago. I'm not sure if I'm hearing it correctly or incorrectly, but this seems like it's not an expansion of services. It's an expansion of geographical locations that we can go to. That's good, right? But it's a reduction of the current bus fleet, if I'm hearing you correctly, and supplementing that with these.
Yeah. Well, so there's been no discussion about reducing the bus fleet that we currently have, and also, so the expansion isn't necessarily of more buses. It's that people are able to access locations that we aren't currently able to transport them to. So if someone were to call today and look for a ride for Friday to get to UMass in Worcester, we would have to tell them, very sorry, but we can't transport you there. With this model, we would be able to transport them to the hospitals in Worcester, as well as the medical facilities in Southborough and Marlborough, which are all things that right now we would have to either tell somebody, no, we can't do it, or we would have to try to find them a volunteer who would then put that person in their own vehicle.
Am I correct in thinking that this is additive to what we have now? So
yes.
Our current 3 bus service that we have for in-town trips to Roach Brothers, to those places, this is additive to that to expand the service to those regions you're talking about?
No. I just want to be really clear. So these 2 buses would take the place of the services that we currently offer, where we're bringing folks on sort of individual trips and medical appointments. So that would replace it. We are also maintaining our current fleet and would be able to offer potentially some additional trips, as Kendra mentioned, outside of those hours. We will likely come back over the next several months to the board to talk about a recommendation that we will provide, which we don't currently have because we want to watch how this model works, and how we want to how we might want to reduce our current fleet. So, but I do think, I mean, it does say in your packet, significantly expand. I think to Kendra's point, it is a significant expansion because it's availability to get to these locations that we don't currently have.
Yeah, no, I'm very supportive of the concept here of the expansion to the area, the hospitals and the other points of interest or need outside of direct Westborough. So I'm very supportive of that. What I don't understand is, are we? I don't know. I have no data right now as to how many bus trips people are requesting today. How many are we servicing and actually helping with, actually providing, and what is the gap that we're looking to fill on those services to expand. So I'm just using round numbers here. Let's say we do 100 bus trips today, and we're missing 20 people weren't able to be serviced, so we have a 20% miss. And this is going to add another 50 bus trips and expand the area of service. Is that what's happening, or are these two buses again going to just fill that need of 100 trips a day, or 120 trips a day? I'm not clear on how.
So there's a couple of things, and Kendra can probably speak to this as well. So going back, we're not just using this program to fill a gap. We're using it to replace a current program, and it also has expanded capability in terms of where it's going. It also significantly, and I know this isn't what you were asking, but I think it's important to say, it increases the capacity of our staff to focus on other things because they spend hours each day trying to create these schedules. I think it would be very difficult for us to say to you, we get 20 calls a week or whatever that we're not able to support because they want to go somewhere maybe that we don't currently go, or there's not room. Because I think our service has been going on for so long that there are many folks who just wouldn't call us. So we don't know the number of people that we're not serving, but I think that when you look back to our senior needs assessment, it has been identified over and over again as there's a gap in service. We do have some data related to the current ridership, so I don't know if either of you want to speak to that.
Yeah, so Kendra was able to provide WRTA with 2 months of raw passenger data that we were able to sift through. I believe it was February and March. And I believe it was about 500 trips a month, which from a WRTA perspective, if I were to extrapolate that and kind of annualize it, you'd be our second largest council on aging out of 11. And that includes Shrewsbury, Northborough. The only one that would be slightly larger was Millbury. But one of the things I do want to point out, though, is part of this model is it's a shared resource in terms of the 2 Westborough vans. But one of the other things that being adjacent to Northborough, that Northborough is also in the program, is that Northborough also has 2 vans. They can help infill, and Westborough can help infill to Northborough and Shrewsbury as well. So say hypothetically you have 4 passengers from Beach Street here that are all going to UMass Worcester roughly for the same time. Along the way our scheduling works, say there's somebody in Shrewsbury that lives directly across from White City or something like that also needs that ride to UMass. Your van can pick them up along the way, or vice versa, where a Northborough van might be coming back to drop somebody off somewhere, residential along the Westborough line, and they're able to take a couple of people from Westborough. So to your point regarding kind of that unmet need, you're right. Are there people that may be missing today? There could be, absolutely. But from the WRTA's perspective and working with the town is right now, the van service and what it's doing with in town, but there's this large out-of-town need as well. We see that potential in opening the doors to expanding the service area correct, but hopefully part of that efficiency in helping to free up Kendra and free up the senior center's time is that now our office and scheduling, maybe we are able to streamline and kind of optimize a lot of that so that we're able to free up our vans a little bit more to accommodate more trips.
Yeah, I definitely see the benefit of that benefit. I can see that happening. Certainly the scheduling piece is a significant amount of work, but where I struggle, and I guess I've just got to wrap my brain around a little bit more, is where we have a van fleet of 3. We're going to add 2 and remove some services from the current 3. And the new new WRTA vans are going to go further away to further locations, and they're going to also have out of Westborough residents, let's say they're going through Northborough on their way to UMass, they're going to pick up other residents, which then will increase the amount of time that van is, I'll say, out of local service operation, okay? And that's very different than what we have today, where we've got 3 vans servicing us within the community with some small outreach to other, locations like Northborough Crossing and whatnot. And that's where I think I'm concerned that there's a little bit of a gap there. So that's
Right.
where my question's coming from.
So we never have all 3 vans on the road at once.
Okay.
If anything, there are only 2 vans on the road. So what this will be able to do is those WRTA vans will be used for the everyday medical, grocery store, hairdresser, or in and around this area trips. That will then free up the vans that the Council on Aging owns to say that there is 15 people that want to go to the Worcester Art Museum. We have that van and that capability to do that, whereas before those vans were on the road doing the day-to-day trips.
And if I read correctly on the WRTA's website and a little bit of information in regards to the service, if the town has a special need for the WRTA van, such as we wanted to bus people to our town meeting, we could do that. We would need to notify WRT of the use of that for a special function such as that, if I read the information correctly. But if that happens, all residents, not just senior residents, are then eligible for that service.
Right, and so I think that that's something that we've discussed using just the senior center vans for, and that would be like a town function that they would be then on, the buses that we already own, especially because the one bus that we own is the largest, which is the 20-passenger van. So I think that if there was a need for that, and that's what was decided on, it would more than likely be 1 or 2 of the vans that we own and would operate.
And I think that's important because, again, we want to experience the program before we make a recommendation, but our expectation is not that we would need to retain a fleet of 5 vans and have 2 WRTA vans. That's not our expectation, but we're certainly looking at maybe offering, as Kendra just mentioned, some additional trips or potentially transportation to other things that we haven't been able to offer.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I guess talk a little bit more about the experience of, right now today we've got VIA, right? And that's an online app. I think you can download the app on your phone, you can reserve. The current senior center buses, it's a phone call in or communicating to somebody at the senior center itself as to a need. And then this is a third way, which is to call into WRTA to schedule it at by 4:30 the night before. It's 3 unique ways. I'm just curious, are there any plans by the WRTA to streamline or expand via or an online app capability to allow residents the ability to use a common, consistent way to do scheduling?
Do you mind if I? So I think the first part is people would not be calling the senior center to schedule their rides anymore unless it was advertised to call to sign up to go on a trip. So the everyday calls would not exist. Those would be funneled through the WRTA. They would be calling that advertised number. So there would be no need for people to be reaching out to the senior center in that capacity. And I think VIA is a really great tool, but I also think that there are a lot of older adults that have struggled to use it. I'm not saying all of them have struggled to use it, but it provides sort of a level of comfort. It's going to be drivers that they see regularly. The vans are branded as run and operated by the Westborough Council on Aging. And also they're handicapped accessible, where to my knowledge, the VIA vehicles are just regular sort of like minivan type vehicles. So if someone is wheelchair bound or has some mobility issues, it would be very difficult for them to get into one of the VIA vehicles.
Okay. Are you able to provide some guidance to our residents in regards to the timing expectations? So I hear I'm a resident and I have an appointment up at UMass at, let's say, 9:30 in the morning. So I just call ahead and I say, I'd like to be to my appointment by 9:30. What is the timing expectation should they make a request for a half hour before, an hour before, understanding the length of time it needs that's projected? And then kind of second part to that question is, the scheduling piece of it is I'm calling as a resident saying, I need to be picked up at this time. Scheduling happens afterwards, right? You could get 5 more calls that need to use that same bus along that same route. Does that resident then also, you said there's a phone call that happens, does that resident also get some sort of update on what the ETA, you've just added 4 more people to that route, right? Am I still gonna make my appointment at UMass?
So getting back to, so the call the night before, so exactly to that point, I make a trip request for 11 a.m., 4 other people came in behind me type thing. So our call takers can negotiate the pickup time, and they'll work with the passenger to say, okay, is your appointment exactly at 11? Should you get there for 10:45, so on and so forth? To say it's UMass Memorial in Worcester, it's a little easier to navigate than UMass Medical School with multiple buildings. So our call takers do kind of work with passengers, especially in a new program, to kind of learn that negotiation. Right now, we don't have that real-time kind of capability. We are going to be reprocuring our paratransit software next year. And part of that, we're going to be looking for that kind of, same day, that appointment at 11 a.m. Hey, where is my vehicle? Is it, 2 miles away? Is it around the block type thing? We don't have that right now. Passengers can call in if that morning, it's 9:30 and they're feeling just a little anxious. They can call our paratransit office just to kind of get an update. But at this time, there's no app or any kind of online tracking where they could do that in real time. But that is a feature we are looking to expand upon sometime next year.
Thank you.
I also want to mention, so with my experience working in Northborough, where they had this mobility management program already in place, something that I find very helpful is that they'll look at the schedule, and if someone is just going to the grocery store to go grocery shopping, when they make that call, they might say, we have 5 people that are going to medical appointments. That's the priority. You might have to go grocery shopping an hour later than what you're hoping to do, because those strict medical appointments and work times are sort of prioritized. And then the other sort of stuff that's not appointment based, that's shopping, would be what gets adjusted.
Patrick, sorry, if you want to, I'll come back to you, but I just want to give the other board members a chance to ask questions. Sean already spoke.
I'm good for now.
Yep.
Okay. Yes, so first of all, great presentation. Thank you so much. I do have a couple questions. Some of them were answered beforehand in an email exchange with Christy, so I'll try not to repeat any of those. First question is, what percent, and I guess, Nick, this is to you, what percent of rides are typically not able to be serviced based on your experience?
That's a great question. I would have to check with our paratransit office about that. There's denials outright are a big no-no, but that's where that trip negotiation kind of comes in. So like Kendra was talking about with grocery shopping, so medical is always the priority. Medical is always priority, whether it's in town or out of town. That's just the nature of our service. But in terms of actual denials or kind of readjustments, I would have to look into that for you.
Okay.
It is very few and far between. I just don't have a hard number.
So I just want to, in my 3 years in Northborough, I never experienced an outright denial for a resident that was calling. Not to say that it didn't happen in other towns,
Sure.
but as far as all of the rides we were doing, which was around 350 a month, I never ran into a situation where someone was denied.
Okay, great, thank you. So that's sort of, well, I'll just keep going in order of my question. I'll get back to that one. You mentioned taxis as an overflow where it's needed. Obviously, that would be for I should say, I believe that's for non-ADA needs, correct? Not ADA. We don't have taxis here in Westborough typically, so how would that be handled?
Yep. So the service provider that we have under contract to handle that overflow, everything's handled by our paratransit office.
Okay.
So if it is a passenger who does not have a disability that would need the ADA van, our office knows that client could be shifted to a taxi cab, and there's the agreement we have with that taxi cab provider, they would come from Worcester.
They'll come way out here to little old Westborough. Perfect.
They
Okay,
go to
that's great.
Southbridge and further
Okay.
places now. So.
No, that's great. Okay. I
And
didn't-
they will usually mention to the person to
Yes.
look for a taxi so
Yep.
that you're not waiting for the bus when the taxi's in the parking lot.
Okay. Regarding funding, I guess question to Christy, when funds come in through this monthly process, the 15th of the month, does that go into the general fund or does that get allocated back somehow to the senior center budget?
So initially, it would go into the general fund. What we would look to do is set up a revolving account at the October town meeting, so that we wouldn't have to budget for this anymore, and so when the money would come in and go out for this purpose.
Okay. Okay, thank
Lower
you.
the tax rate.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, if I can,
Yes.
one of the reductions that we made for fiscal '26 was to eliminate the $21,000 that we currently budget for substitute drivers. And that was, a variety of reasons why that was identified, but one of the things that we were looking at was this program, understanding that if we were to move forward with it, we could likely lower the budget more.
If I may, one more question then.
Please, yep.
Patrick touched on this a little bit, but I am interested in understanding how sort of we evaluate and measure success of this program. The packet provides some information on really basic information like how many rides, the costs per passenger within a, I guess, rideshare model, and some really basic data. There wasn't anything sort of around, which goes to my earlier question around, were we not able to fulfill a request? Any like issue escalation percent of, or anything kind of, I'll say a little more potentially subjective, but like how is the program running? Are responses being met? Were there any issues with drivers? Those sort of things. So are there other metrics? I know we don't have a contract yet. What we were presented with is a sample contract. Are there other metrics that we would anticipate getting?
So on the senior center's behalf, something that we would be tracking, especially in this first year, is how many people are using a ride to a place that we weren't currently able to bring them to.
Yep.
And so that would just, how many people are going to Worcester, and is this a contract that is helping us, and are we seeing a lot of people using this? And also to see the growth, because I think to Christy's point earlier, a lot of people just know that we won't bring them there, so they're not bothering to call.
Yep.
And it's being able to track. In the first month we had 3 people, but then by the 12th month there was 50 people that were accessing locations that we couldn't transport them to before.
Okay.
Would be something that we would really be focusing on.
Okay. Well, so I think that's great. I also think rider satisfaction and experience somehow needs to be measured and captured. So we can table that, but I would like to see something there so that we understand, because this will be a transition, and the first year, hopefully will go smoothly, but there are naturally expected to be some hiccups. So we just want to understand that. And I know this isn't your first rodeo or rodeo, as it would be. You can come back to me.
Mark?
Okay, so I'm not that familiar with the current ride program, so you'll have to forgive me, but you said volunteers take some passengers, and that's being phased out?
Yes. So I was actually really surprised when I started working in Westborough that this was a program that was still offered. And it's something that I think, regardless of what happens with the WRTA or doesn't happen, is something that we would work on phasing out anyways. And that is just because, from a liability standpoint, you're putting a lot of responsibility on a volunteer. So you're having someone who might have complex medical needs, you're bringing them to a medical appointment in your own vehicle as a volunteer, and I don't even need to explain it, there's like 18 million ways that could go really wrong. And so while I really appreciate and think it's wonderful that the people that do that program are so invested and would like to continue volunteering, unfortunately, it's just not an appropriate way to transport people.
Okay.
And so my hope would be to really encourage them, because there will be people who would like to do their grocery shopping that might have a walker that can't carry their grocery bags on and off the bus, or might have an appointment at UMass that needs a little bit of help directing to the office that they're going to because it's a really big place. So it would just be having someone who is interested in volunteering be paired up with someone who might just need a little bit of a helping hand. And that relieves sort of their liability, their responsibility, and it is more of a true volunteer job.
Sure. That wasn't my question, though. Sorry. Just, my question was, are volunteers currently taking people out of town?
Yes.
Okay. Because I completely understand the liability standpoint, and I'm glad that you're still planning on having volunteers assist people. But my guess is that a lot of the volunteers don't currently have a handicap accessible vehicles?
No, so this is, if someone needed an appointment at UMass Worcester, they would call the senior center and say, hello, I have an appointment on Thursday at 1 o'clock. I know that the vans won't take me there. Can you find me a volunteer to bring me? And then we will find a volunteer from the pool and, call and say, Mark, are you available to bring this person to UMass at 1 o'clock on Thursday? You would then go to their house and pick them up in your personal vehicle and drive them in your vehicle to their appointment, wait for them, and then drive them home.
And pay for the gas and everything. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
so that is actually part of it, that you are responsible for gas, tolls, and parking.
Okay.
That is one of the things that the volunteers sign.
So I think one of my other questions, and I think you already answered, was this has no impact on the current VIA service? This
Correct,
now
completely
in place.
independent. Yep.
You mentioned that we're right on the edge of the Metro West. Can a Westborough resident I realize that your intention is to go to Southborough Medical and Marlborough UMass, but can a Westborough resident combine trips? So they, in other words, can they say, well, can you drive me to Southborough and then call Metro West and have them pick up to drive to, say, a dermatologist in Framingham or something?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
But there's
you don't have
no
to be a resident.
interconnectivity between our agencies.
You don't have to be a resident of MWRTA to. You can
No,
call-
so in this scenario, say there's a Westborough resident who's going to Southborough Medical. They have a trip scheduled. They get there at noon tomorrow. If they call Metro West and get registered in their system and say, I'm in Southborough Medical, Metro West likely wouldn't bring them back to Westborough. But if they needed to go from Southborough Medical to, Framingham Union or something like that, that's within Metro West's purview. But that passenger would have to know they need to be set up within Metro West
Right.
system
So
as
it
well.
would take a lot of coordination, but they could theoretically get outside of the.
They might have
In
trouble
the-
getting back home.
Yeah,
Well,
right.
that's
in
kind of
theory.
my next question.
Right, exactly.
your
Yep. It would
hours-
be a lot of coordination between different agencies.
No, and again, I'm not suggesting that that's going to happen. I'm just trying to figure out, if a Westboro resident is even allowed to take MWRTA because the fares are free. So
Right.
you're
So
saying they can,
Metro
but-
West, I actually don't know if they're fare free right now. But either way, if not speaking on their behalf, but essentially if it would be a trip from Southborough within their service area, that those
Okay.
their rules would apply essentially.
So then my next question was about the hours, and I think you have to pardon me if I misheard you, but I think you said Monday through Thursday, 8 to 3:30?
Yeah, Monday through Thursday, 8:30 to 3:30, and then Fridays 8 to 11.
Okay, and 8 to 11 on Fridays is in town only?
Correct.
Okay, so basically somebody would, if they wanted to go to UMass, they'd probably have to schedule their appointments in the morning and hope to be done by 2:30, 3 in order to get back, or
Yeah.
are they in danger of being stuck at UMass?
So typically we see this with the majority of our councils that most of their appointments are actually morning based anyway. Some of our councils are actually off the road at 1:30, 2 o'clock. It's just based on driver availability. Some communities have their own work rules, so on and so forth. But that is something that our call takers, and we would work with Kendra as well on, we would recommend not having people try to make medical appointments at 3:30, because there's likely no guarantee that they're going to be able to get back.
Okay.
And it is something, and I know just from working in a community that use this, they will tell the person when they're calling, if you make an appointment for 2:45 and the bus has to be off the road at 3:30, when you call the WRTA, they're really good about saying, if your appointment runs late, you might be responsible for getting yourself home, or do you have a way home? We can bring you there, but we can't bring you back. Or they're also good at recommending, why don't you try to make the appointment for an earlier time or a different day? And that's, so the hours are because the senior center staff has to see the driver to ensure that the driver is fit for duty in the morning, and then also that they return, I guess, fit for duty on their way home.
Okay, and that I'm fine with. I just, as you roll this out, assuming you roll this out, I just want to make sure that those expectations are put out to potential riders that, they can't schedule a 2:30 appointment. Is there any consideration, given that Tuesday is a late night in town, of having a late night? Or it doesn't have to be Tuesday necessarily?
Yeah, so it's not a late night for the senior center as of yet. We do switch to a summer schedule. When that happens, because there are going to be people who need transportation to those special events at the senior center, that would be the times that we would be using the senior center van. So we know on July 1st that we're having a red, white, and blue barbecue, and it's going to go from, I think, 5:30 to 7:30. We would do whatever we can to make sure that we have a driver who's available to drive a Westborough bus and to transport the people that are interested in attending that event that don't have transportation.
Kendra, these hours are actually slightly expanded from what we currently do,
Yes,
right?
yes. So we currently offer service 9 to 3.
Okay. And then how long is the commitment? So, for example,
Good
if
question.
we do this, are we like locked in for 5 years, or
Year to
can
year.
we do like
1 year, right?
1 year.
Yeah, the contracts are an annual, as our budget, similar to the town, it's an annual adoption.
And then I guess final question, you had mentioned some public outreach dates and times and locations. Could you repeat those? And I'm just curious why we didn't do that before you came to us. But
Because we haven't approved
The
it yet.
outreach isn't intended to get feedback on the program. The outreach is intended to teach people how to use the program.
Well, if I get like 200 calls after those outreach, and then I can't change my mind.
No.
That's also why we went to the Council on Aging first.
Well, my inclination is positive towards this, so I'm not. I don't think we're going to get a bunch of negativity, but I do think that first year is going to be
Yep.
crucial. Put up or shut up kind of thing. So,
I guess I would also just say that the outreach was also done when we were doing the senior needs assessment. Because if you go back to that, there was a whole section on transportation.
Good point. Okay.
Yeah.
What are those dates?
It's June 9th from noon to 1:30 at the senior center, and then June 16th from noon to 1:30 at the Great Hall. And I will say I already have been in contact with public housing. And after, I wanted to wait until this meeting today, but if there's approval, I do plan on going to both of the public housing sites and doing a presentation on how to register, and also giving the housing director the magnets with the phone numbers so that she can put them in all of the residents' mailboxes. And regardless of if they use our transportation currently or not, they will have that phone number and will have access to that information if they're interested.
And I'm sorry, the one in the Great Hall on the 16th. Just give me those times again.
Noon to 1:30.
Yes, noon to 1:30.
So they're both in the 12 to 1.
Yes, yeah. So we are, just to encourage people to attend, are providing lunch for those that come. We
I'll
have
be there.
found that we have found that
I'm almost
really
60.
drives numbers, and that gets the community to the event. So
Well, you'll be offering van rides to that too.
yes,
so.
yep. So we will be offering transportation to all of those meetings as well.
Okay.
And I think something that's really important to highlight is that those meetings, PBSI, who is an acronym that I don't even know, they are the
We'll worry
ones
about
who register people. So they will be there to register people. So if you come and you're interested in booking a ride on July 2nd, they will have the information available to register you so that you don't have to call and register
Yeah,
yourself.
I just want to make sure the people who need rides to get places will be able to get to this public
So,
meeting.
yes, so
you need, for obvious reasons, you need the van ride.
Right. We didn't, until the select board was able to take a vote and to hear about it, we didn't really want to publicize it too much. But the intention is to reach out to all of our regular riders and let them know, and to also give them the option to, if when we give them a call, to tell them this is happening, if they want to come to one or both of those
Right, and-
meetings.
But
Yes.
to be clear, they shouldn't be calling WRTA for those 2 meetings. They'll call the senior center
Yes,
for
right.
rides for
Yes.
those 2
Until the earliest you can sign up for a WRTA ride would be June 23rd.
meetings. Okay. All right. I think those are all my questions.
Great. I'm going to jump in and then I'll go around just, and I think I may only have one question, but I'm hugely supportive of this. I think this is great. I think just to hit on some things, and I guess these could be questions or just correct me where I go wrong here, but to me, service is expanded. We talked about hours, we talked about areas, et cetera. 2 buses is kind of what we're using today, even though we have 3. We're using basically the same drivers. I know that's one thing with seniors, they get comfortable with the drivers they have, so we're providing the drivers. The buses are labeled Westborough Council on Aging, as you said. It may look a little bit different, but I still think the service is there and we're expanding it, which I think is huge. The things I wanted to hit on is we've talked a lot in terms of regionalization. We've done a lot of that work. This is another way for us to regionalize and cost savings, but using resources appropriately. I love the fact that was brought up is, it could be things that, you're picking up folks or someone from Northborough can cover for us. It's what we do with our fire departments, what we do with our police departments. It's what we do with veteran services. But I think it's been a goal of ours in our strategic plan. I think regionalization is great. Budget relief is huge. It's something we've been talking about, and I think getting to that point once we get a revolving fund would be great for next year. And I guess then my one question is, I think I understood this. I hope I understood it correctly, but to the slide that talked about the assessment we get today for the MBTA, am I correct in saying that we get that assessment, on our cherry sheet, but in essence we're not utilizing it today, or is it going to something? I think what I heard was we can use that assessment for regional transit to cover those
Correct.
costs.
So
Yeah.
when the community gets, so say hypothetically the, your community assessment is at 150 number. So WRTA has its assessment of the 10 grand. The balance essentially today you're giving to the MBTA because it's in your budget that you have to. But the state allows the regional transit authorities to basically draw from if there's balances in the MBTA assessment in order to fund new service. That's something that the WRTA would work with the Department of Revenue on, kind of how to, all those machinations behind the scenes on the cherry sheets.
So to that point, when you showed the budget of whatever the first year budget of 76,000, you'd be looking to draw, or 90,000, sorry, 74, whatever, draw some of that, whatever you could off of that MBTA assessment. Is that
Correct.
correct? Or hopefully all of it?
We're not, yeah.
Here comes
Sorry,
the finance guy.
finance, yeah.
My name is Tom Coyne. I'm the Deputy Administrator and Chief Finance Officer. I don't think we'd want to draw down the full $90,000 against the MBTA because we'd want to leave a little bit there for, like you said, the VIA service that's still running.
Yep.
Typically, the way the assessments work is because we get a lot of different funding from a lot of different funding sources. We get what we call state contract assistance from the state. It's in the governor's budget, the House budget, and the Senate budget. And typically it's a 75-25 split. The state usually covers 75% of the costs, and the local assessments are 25% of the costs. So really, we'd be looking for somewhere around 25 to 30% of the 90,000. Okay. That's what we would for the first year, and that gives us a buffer for future increases because costs do increase, and for VIA. Currently, VIA is grant funded, but those grant funds will only last for a couple more years, and then there's going to be some costs associated with that program.
Perfect.
So,
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying. That actually makes it better from my side. So it sounds like
I'm sorry. So are you saying you're not going to charge us 90,000?
no.
So the cherry sheets will not show $90,000 now.
Okay.
No, ideally, what you'd see is just a reallocation. Let's say the number is, and we won't know this until after we provide service for a year and we go through the whole cost allocation process. But let's say the costs are $90,000, or let's say they're $100,000 because of some other costs. And then the split is somewhere around 75-25, so it's, $25,000 assessments to the town of Westborough. What we would do is we would go to the Department of Revenue and say, of that 150 that's being assessed from the MBTA, we're going to take 25,000 of that and assign it to the RTA and reduce the MBTA assessment. So basically, you're getting the service for essentially for free.
Got it. Yeah. That was thank you for clarifying that. That was my question. That makes a whole more sense now. So thank you.
Yeah,
More. Yep. So I think that covered mine, but just want to say again, hugely supportive of this. I think it's a great change. It's something that we've heard, and I'm psyched that you were at the Council on Aging meeting that they unanimously approved it. I lean heavily on that as well. So, still more questions?
Let Mark go first.
Yeah, I'm sorry, just one more quick question on that, and you might need the finance guy to get back up. Since WRTA owns the vehicles, when a vehicle needs to be replaced, is there any additional assessment to the town, or how does that?
So we get, because we're a direct recipient of FTA, Federal Transit Administration dollars, capital dollars, we purchase all of our equipment with either Federal Transit Administration dollars, or there's also MassDOT has a program, a community transit grant program, where we get a lot of the vans from. So no, there wouldn't be any cost to the town for any new vans. Part of the cost allocation process that I talked about earlier includes the maintenance of the vehicles. So all the vehicles will be maintained in Worcester at our depot on Quinsigamond Ave in Worcester. And while those vehicles are being maintained, a loaner vehicle will be sent out to Westborough. So you'd always have your two vehicles, and our maintenance folks would talk to Kendra about, you got to bring your van in because it's due for its 6,000 mile maintenance. But yes, so that's kind of how that works.
So that's actually a better advantage there. Right now, we have something go wrong with ours, it's off the road, we don't have a backup for it.
Correct.
Yeah, so in my experience, what happens is there's a light that comes on in the dash, the driver notices it, tells me, I call the garage at the WRTA, and they typically will send out a mechanic to come get the van and leave us with a loaner vehicle. They'll do the replacement, and then either they'll come and make the switch, or when the driver is already in Worcester with the loaner van, we'll schedule a stop to pick it up at their garage.
Perfect. Patrick.
Yeah, no, a lot of great questions and some great information here. So again, thank you. I am also hugely supportive of it. I'm cautiously optimistic. The elder community is the largest demographic in our town, and it's a major importance that we get this right. So that's why I think it's really appropriate to ask so many questions. I'm not entirely clear on the insurance liability piece, but I don't want to get into that discussion now. It's a zero fee based, so my understanding is liability is not an issue. But you mentioned the volunteer piece of it, and I'm really excited about that. That's great. I think it's a great idea to have that program. I want to try to minimize the burden on the resident as much as possible to try to go identify their own volunteer or something like that.
That wouldn't be, so that would be something if, in two parts, if the driver is noticing that someone is using the van regularly and might be having some difficulty navigating a doctor's appointment and could use some assistance, that driver could let us know and we would try to pair them up with somebody. And it would also look like somebody calling and saying, I have a ear, nose, and throat doctor's appointment. I know what UMass looks like, but I don't know how to navigate. Can you see if there's someone who's willing to go with me?
Yeah, I was actually going to take it
but
one
we
step
wouldn't,
further.
Yeah, we wouldn't have them be matching themselves with the volunteer.
Yeah, I was going to take it one step further and make a suggestion, just a suggestion here, that maybe the volunteer program would be a volunteer on the bus all the time during all the hours. That person would know those individuals on and off the bus, would know the processes in the hospitals, in Southwell Medical, would know the ins and outs of whatever locations they're going to. And also that person as a volunteer would be able to help with perhaps packages if that was needed as well.
I think we would really struggle to find someone who was willing to ride the bus all day. And I think what people like about the volunteer driver program is it's really only an hour or two of their day. Not to say that we would be totally not interested in something like that. I just think we would really struggle to find volunteers who are willing to dedicate that much time to something.
I'm not saying a whole day, I'm just saying, 2-hour cycles or whatever
Yeah.
is appropriate.
It would also, I mean, it would also be difficult because you'd have one volunteer getting off with Mrs. Jones, and then what happens to the 4 other people that need to go within the UMass system that day on their visits?
Yeah, I'm just saying.
I understand. I mean, I'm going to trust that.
A 12-person bus with 6 volunteers and 6 people that need to go to appointments, and we're limiting perhaps in that scenario how many people can use that bus on that trip. But just thinking
And
it out loud here.
I will say most of the people that utilize our transportation services are able to navigate where they're going. It would be more of an exception in a case-by-case situation where someone is, it is someone who's able to ride the van but maybe can't get to where they're going on their own. For the most part, that's not really what we would see on a regular basis. It would definitely be a rare exception.
Just 2 more questions. You mentioned the taxis. I'm just curious, is the contractor held to the same quality standards of cleanliness, et cetera, as the buses are?
So I will just, before Nick answers, I know that this was a concern, again, working in Northborough, not to keep bringing that up, but I do have a lot of experience with this system. I know at first people were hesitant because they see the taxi, but I know from my own research that the drivers are Corey checked, and they are also held to the same standard that a driver that was employed by the town of Westborough would be. And that also the vehicles have to be maintained and cleanly, and if there was a complaint, it would be taken very seriously.
You went part B of my question, so thank you for clarifying that. My last question, what is the SCM Elder Bus, and are residents in Westborough eligible for that as well?
Sure. So SCM Elder Bus is actually our largest paratransit contractor in terms of the number of communities. So they're a nonprofit organization that basically provides COA service for 22 of our towns. It's primarily west and southwest of Worcester. So we maintain the COA agreements with Auburn directly, Millbury, Shrewsbury, Northborough directly. SCM Elder Bus, we provide that because the majority of the towns they serve are very rural, 2,000, 3,000 population where they don't have a senior center staff. And no, Westborough would not be part of that area.
Okay, thank you very much.
Shelby.
I appreciate this has been long. Thank you for your patience in answering all the questions. I just think that we get one bite at this apple, and making sure that we're all comfortable is important. Regarding funding, so given what's happening at the national level and the impacts at the state level, I know no one has a crystal ball, but so if we're signing up for FY26, is there any risk of impact to this program that would impact the ability to fulfill commitments as been discussed tonight?
So the operating funds that are used for this service are ones that come to the WRTA through Mass DOT. It's Tom had referred to state contract assistance. It's not federal funds.
Okay, because the contract template that we got, and I know it's just a sample, specifically talks about federal funding. So I just want to make sure that there's no impact. So, and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to call you out. I just want to make sure that we're not like, this is great, and then...
There might have been references to federal contract clauses, because we do ask all providers to essentially meet our federal contract clauses, but the actual funding source behind it is state.
Okay, so funding is Mass DOT.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Regarding, a little bit in the weeds here, regarding pickup locations for individuals. So walk me through. So walk me through the registration process. So I'm going to call.
So you call, you sign yourself up. Part of what they will usually ask when you're signing up is, is there a good, safe place in front of your home to be picked up? Typically, they will not go into somebody's driveway. Just for safety reasons, it's hard for the buses to back up. So typically what we ask is that the person is on the curb, which is the same policy that the Westborough Senior Center uses now with our buses. And we will figure out, a good location
Yep,
for people
okay.
to be picked up at, which is similar to what we do now when we have a new person who's
Okay,
needing a
and
ride.
as part of that registration process, is the intake person through the WRTA staff, are they asking, and again, a little bit of an awkward question about any medical challenges? Are they using a mobility device? Is there any
So-
cognitive issues? Like, how do you handle that?
They will ask, do you need an assistive device? And specifically, I have had instances where they say, do you need a wheelchair or do you need the wheelchair lift? Just because that they'll add in like 5 to 10 minutes
Yep.
for the time it takes for that person to get on the vehicle, because it does take a few minutes to
Yep.
lower and raise the lift. Also, the drivers will go through training on how to properly secure a wheelchair, so it takes a couple of minutes.
Mm-hmm.
They will ask when you are new if you're using any of those devices, or if there is something that would impact the way that you use the bus that they should be aware of.
Yep. Okay, great, thank you. And can family members register an individual? Not the individual themselves?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And is there, I think you already answered this, is there any texting mechanism that is in place now for someone to say, oh, this is my confirmation versus a call?
No, currently we don't have that capability, but we are looking at reprocuring our paratransit scheduling software next year, and that is certainly a piece that would be attractive.
Just because
too.
some people hearing impairment, what have you, it's right in front of them. A lot of people use texting. Great. And I assume there's no portal then either for clients to kind of log into and see, or the Council on Aging to see, because inevitably, Kendra, you know you're going to get calls because they're going to be like, I tried that number. I'm calling my friends at the senior center, and will you have access to who's getting rides when and where?
So we
Or how
get
will you
the-
handle that, I
We get
guess?
the schedule sent to us the night before.
Okay, great.
So we would just have a breakdown. It's kind of a general guideline. It's not to say that that doesn't change throughout the day if
Yep.
there's traffic or something.
Of course.
But it gives us an idea of if you call and say that you have a ride scheduled for 9 and it's 9:05, whereas the bus, we
Mm-hmm.
can look at the schedule and say, he was on the other side of town, he should be there any minute. Or it gives us enough information to call the WRTA. They have GPS and they can say, he's here.
Great. Okay, super. Thank you. Because you know those calls will happen, right?
Yes,
It's just
yeah.
particularly in the beginning if someone's 5 minutes late, right? Do you, during registration as well as calling to schedule, are there language translation services available?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Can you? I don't need to know all the languages. Is it 5? Is it 500?
Certainly more than 5, probably not up to 500.
Okay.
We have an agreement with service provider, Accentria. They
Okay,
have
Accenture.
the language bank, so it's basically a 3-way call. So if someone calls in that needs Haitian Creole,
Yep.
our call taker will get in touch with the language bank and then do a 3-way conference call essentially to get that all straightened out.
Okay. And WRTA then creates kind of their client profiles and maintains that information. Is it like HIPAA compliant?
Correct.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
in Westborough, this service would not be what we call ADA level, Americans with Disabilities
Yep.
Act. It would be non-ADA, but a number of our councils do have that ADA component just
Yep.
because of the service area. So yes, that's all under that purview.
Okay, and who's training the drivers? I know there's now like going to be something, it's a different bus, they have the MDT thing, so you guys train the drivers?
So we'll train the drivers on how to use the mobile data terminals that Kendra was talking about, basically the GPS. But all of the driver training is something we'll work with Kendra on. There's a program through Mass DOT. It's called Mass Urban Tap.
Yep.
And they outline the specific courses that are required for COA drivers to be compliant. I work with Kendra and all the other COA directors. Every year, WRTA has to basically file a compliance report
Yep.
with Mass DOT that says, hey, Westborough doesn't have a driver that is
Yep.
4 years past their certifications.
Right.
Because there are some certifications that are done on day one when
Mm-hmm.
a new driver is hired, and they're online courses. So if they need to be renewed in 3 years, great. But the main one is drug and alcohol, and they're entered into our pool for random testing. And then the second, or equally important, not first or second, is the wheelchair securement training, and that's done every 2 years. But all of the Westborough drivers, the ones who are either going to come from the COA or ones that are hired, will all have to go through that before July 1st.
And on the training, then, you sort of led into my next question, because you did provide the list of all the different trainings, which is great to see for safety, both driver and passenger. Is there a grace period? Like if a driver, if we're starting the program, right, July 1, if one of our drivers hasn't met all the criteria, like,
Yeah, so
How will
I
we-
think as long as this is something that's approved, we're going to do our very best to train all of the drivers that we have and
Okay.
anybody new that we would hire. And we have also already talked with the WRTA about scheduling trainings in Westborough to get all of our drivers
Great.
Up to standard. There is a program that drivers can take called Train the Trainer, where usually one driver in a COA would be trained to train new hires.
Yep.
So that would just look like a new hire working with that person to get all of their certifications so that when they're ready to drive, they're ready to drive.
okay. That actually answers all of my questions. Imagine that.
Great. Any other questions from the board? Does anybody want to make a motion?
Sure, I will. Move to support the implementation of the WRTA's mobility management model, thereby enhancing transportation services available to Westboro seniors, and further to authorize the town manager to execute any documents between the town and the WRTA that are necessary to proceed with the program.
I'll second.
Okay, any further comments?
Just regarding the execution of documents, is that a contract then, Christy, that we will see? Because we only saw the draft?
Not under this motion.
Okay. So my only concern kind of goes back to kind of measurements and metrics and that would be in the contract that, I mean, I think you've heard what well, I don't want to speak for the board. I think there's some expectation on how we're going to kind of measure the success of this. And so understanding what can be in, I realize WRTA probably has a standard contract, certainly is my suggestion to the board that we enhance what's the 4 categories that were listed as examples of what would be provided. So to the extent that we can, I'd like to see something a little beefier in there. So I don't need to read the contract. I just kind of would like some assurance that we'll pursue that.
Well, I think it's right here, and whether it's contractual or side letter or something.
Right.
I mean, I think you're running a service that
Yep.
you want to get customer satisfaction, make sure that people are happy, whatever. I think the senior center, but if we can do it in the contract,
Yeah.
great. But I think heard our things, especially in that first year,
Yep.
just to see.
Yeah,
we want to evaluate it.
I do think a lot of that would fall on the senior center to be reaching out to the people that are using it. And that's something that we would be happy to do.
Okay,
Great.
great.
Yeah, I
It's a
think
great point,
it's
Jill,
important.
because when I read their customer service survey on their website, and the 3 lowest things that they score on are arrival time, notification of service change, and cleanliness of the buses. So I think that's,
Yeah. So I think, again, first impressions will go a long way, so, and sustained performance, so.
Great. So moved and seconded. All those in favor? It's 5-0. 5 being present. Thank you. I know we went
Thank you.
very long here, but appreciate your time, and we look forward to our partnership here. So thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Am I okay to just unplug it? Okay.
Okay, and apologies to folks watching. That's why we always say times are approximate on our agenda. This is very approximate. But our next agenda item is a community center update on operations, and
Is it dark in here or is it me?
it's dark.
Looks like there's one light out.
Bottom one.
Did you see my email? Oh, it's okay.
There we go. Woo, okay, thank you.
Planning what we were.
I know busing is exciting, but I was getting a little sleepy back here. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Much better.
So the purpose of this is to just keep the board and the community informed about what what's going on at the community center. There's no action for the board.
Okay.
Hi, thanks for having me. My name is Jen Kirkland. I'm the recreation director, and I apologize I'm not more dressed up. I just came from Mini Mets, so thank you for understanding and you have
I'm
talked.
so happy about that as a senior and social services director.
Yes.
So like Christy said, I just wanted to give you a brief update on what we've been doing over the last 8-9 months here at the community center, some new programs that we're running, some collaborations that we've done with the senior center, and kind of what's on the horizon as we continue to build our program. So over the last 8 or 9 months, we've been able to add a whole host of new programs at the community center. So they range from no school or vacation programs, fitness classes like Zumba, boxing, Pilates, dance, kids test kitchen, some adult education classes that I know people have been really excited about, indoor pickleball lessons and free play. We've been able to participate more actively in Westborough Connects, their Kindness Week and Unplugs Week. Previously, we've always helped them promote it, but we've never been able to really offer any kind of activities for those weeks. So it was exciting this year to be able to do that. We've held so far 3 bigger free community events: a Halloween party, Meet the Mascot Day, and a spring egg hunt. We hosted 2 public health workshops. We've been able to host Mass Parks and Rec Association. So that is an association of other rec directors that kind of meet monthly. And we were able to host before we didn't have a place to do that. And I think tomorrow we're hosting the Council on Aging Directors.
Tomorrow is I think I'm accidentally the newly elected area Council on Aging Director that plans the meetings for other Council on Aging Directors. So tomorrow is the first meeting of that, and we will be using the community center.
Great.
And our new program coordinator, he came up with, he had some previous experience. Tuesday night socials, there's one going on right now where this is an opportunity for adults with mild to moderate disabilities to come hang out around a shared activity. So last month was bingo. Tonight is a paint and sip. It's juice, but a lot of fun. So these are just things that we would have never been able to do had we not had this building. So it's been really fun.
Fabulous.
So like I said, a lot of our program, when you come to the community center, you're probably coming for a program that's been scheduled out, but we did really want to give people opportunities for free play or open play. So these are some things that we've been able to incorporate. A lot of pickleball, it's very busy. People love it. So we have dedicated times for seniors, dedicated times for adults, and then a request was for family pickleball. So we've just incorporated that where families can come play with their kids and things like that. We have 2 table tennis tables that have been pretty popular as well. So there's times that you can come in, drop in, and just play table tennis. And then playtime is something that we, it was a little bit of trial and error, but I think we've figured it out. And basically we've turned the open space, you can see in the picture there, we have a climbing structure, some blocks, some other age-appropriate toys that we have out. And so on rainy days when it was a little bit colder back in February and March, kids are age 0 to 5 approximately are able to come and sort of just run around, get out of the house. People have really enjoyed that. And to complement that, once a month we offer a free special guest. So we've had a musician come. We have a puppet show this Thursday. So and all of that is free and open to anyone to come. So we've also been able to welcome in some senior center programming, which has been great. So so far we've been able to add in gentle chair yoga, Tai Chi, and strength and balance. So as you probably are aware, before these programs were being held at the senior center, probably behind a curtain while a birthday party or something else was going on, and now they have dedicated space to do these programs. And Kendra and I, in the short time that she's been here, have already started to collaborate, so I'll let her talk a little bit about some things that she feels would be appropriate to move to the community center.
So I think one of the hardest things trying to program in the Westborough Senior Center as it stands now is that we really can only have one activity at a time. So having the opportunity to move a lot of our fitness programs over to the community center allows us to then add to our already, our schedule. It allows us to have more educational opportunities, because you can't really have, today we had a talk on neuropathy. That can't really happen while the Zumba class is going on behind the curtain. It just doesn't really work out. So it's given us a lot of freedom to add those educational and more serious programs. And our intention is to try to move all of our fitness classes over to the community center. So the ones that aren't there, we plan to move there. I have started a program called Donuts with the Director, where we order donuts and people can come and ask me questions. They can make recommendations, tell me what they're looking for from the senior center. And it's our intention to start switching off month to month. So 1 month at the senior center, 1 month at the community center. That way we're introducing the people that are using the senior center to the new space, and also maybe catching some of the people who are doing the fitness activities that are at the community center that I'm not seeing coming through the doors at the senior center every day. And we have had a couple of requests for table tennis, so it's nice that Rec already has the tables, so it's something that we can set up, whether it's a tournament or whether it's set hours where they're reserved for the older adults. They're available for us to use.
So there's just some comparisons. So we moved in September of last year, as you're aware. So from September 1st through May 8th, this is the time frame that I'm looking at here. You can see kind of how we've been able to increase things over the years, but specifically going from last year to this year, the number of activities we've been able to offer, we went from 167 to 372. And I checked that multiple times because it was, when you're in it and you're just doing it, it doesn't feel, and I want to be clear, activities, so a program is boxing, but activities are classified as boxing on Tuesday nights, boxing on Thursday nights. So just to be totally transparent there. So I'm very proud of my staff. We've the four of us have really worked hard to try to brainstorm, come up with new engaging activities for everybody, not just kids, not just adults, not just seniors, but just everybody in the community. We want everyone to come through the doors and just have a good time, and we're going to continue to do that. So what we have coming up, we're going to be outside the community center. We have we're going to be doing a bike rodeo. So Safe Routes to School, our new program coordinator, actually, that was his previous job. So he's got a connection there. They're going to come out. They help kids, make sure they're being safe on their bikes as we get into the warmer months. So we'll do that outside the community center, but we'll be there. We're working on a code of conduct. People are getting a little bit more comfortable in our space, and which we like, but we also need to come up with a set of ground rules that everyone is following so that we can continue to have fun in the building. Room rentals, a lot of people have asked for, to rent the space for meetings or for private events, and I believe, Christy, correct me if I'm wrong, that Christy and her team are working on a policy kind of that's town-wide, so that we all kind of are operating under the same guidelines. We will be starting very soon birthday parties. We view that as a program. So similar how you'd sign up for tennis, you could sign up to have a birthday party at the facility. I'm just still working with DPW to iron out kind of custodial needs and things like that. One thing I would also like to do is have membership cards. They would be free, but it's just, I know someone eventually is going to ask me, and maybe you will tonight, how many people have come through the door? And I think, our MyRec system can track that. We would just need people to scan in. So if you were coming to play pickleball for free, just scan in, and then it'd be a better way to get some more data as to how many people are using the facility. So I'm working on that. And then an exciting thing is that the schools are all tied up this summer with various projects or maintenance things going on. So we actually didn't have a school to run our summer playground program out of. So we'll run it out of the community center this summer, which we're really excited about. And I know we don't have a playground right at the building, but we plan to walk to Bay State daily to the Go to the Tot lot. And then this is my favorite picture. This is just my plea. Things are changing all the time. We're always adding new things. So please follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, and our website has all of the court schedules, the fitness studio schedules, all of our programs, westboroughrec.com. And I love that chalkboard. We erase it every now and then and let the kids, or whoever, write all over it. So happy to answer any questions, but things are going really well.
Great. Thank you for that update. That was great. Questions? Shelby.
Just to, first of all, thank you. Love the collaboration between departments. I know with the library making a move there. Did you want to add?
I'm sorry. Yes, we're excited for the library to come. I'm so sorry. They're coming Friday, so we're really excited. We already have some kind of things in the works with that playtime that I had mentioned. I think that's going to mesh really nicely with, I'm sorry, Kate, if I say it wrong, but Move and Groove, and they have some other kind of toddler programs so it all works really well.
Great. Well, so love the collaboration among many departments and the new programs that are being brought forward. Kendra, I like that you are thoughtfully moving programs to the senior center to better maximize, to the community center to maximize use at the senior center for more appropriate programs there, and that you're mixing it up. And I know you're a great communicator, so you'll make sure everyone knows where the donuts are. So
yeah, and that's a a very big concern at the senior center, so I will make sure everyone knows.
You bet. Where are the donuts going to be?
Very
Hey,
serious stuff.
maybe we can do bagels with the board there someday.
Yeah.
Ooh, mix it up. Okay. Of course, we won't know where we're going, but that's okay.
We might play pickleball.
Yeah, we might.
I
We
was gonna
might.
make a motion to have a adult select board dodgeball team or something.
Oh, God.
Could
An
be like that
oversubscription of activities.
Could be like a movie, I'm sure.
Jen, bit in the weeds here on that membership card thing. I think that's great. You're right. We will ask for some tracking and data. I would hope that in this day and age, it's not just cards, which some people might like, but an app or something that people could scan on their phone. So as a suggestion,
Yeah,
take
yes,
take that away.
thank you. Yeah, so cards will be available. Anytime you sign up for a membership or a program, you get a receipt emailed to you, and the barcode would be right on that receipt you could use on your phone.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. But thanks. Good.
Thanks.
Great. Other comments or questions?
I would just say, as the new liaison to the rec commission, I would just, I'm a big cheerleader. Go, go, go. This is great stuff. Keep it going. Great momentum. So thank you.
John?
Yeah, very well done.
Thank
Very
you.
well done. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
I just had a quick question. Sounds like positive feedback from the seniors? Anything?
Yeah, so the people that are participating at the programs, I think there was a lot of people that were very hesitant to start going to the community center because it's changed, and that can be a really hard thing to navigate. A lot of the feedback we've gotten is, oh wow, there's windows, which is people have been really happy about that. And I think once people make that jump and are participating, we haven't gotten any negative feedback. Definitely some pushback about making the change and going there. And then once they're there, they're like, oh, everyone was really nice, and we had plenty of space, and it wasn't loud.
And we had windows.
Yes, and the windows. Yeah, that was a really big highlight.
Yeah.
Believe it or not.
And something that came up a lot during the public engagement sessions is that we've done it a few times now where we're running like a no school program, and Strength and Balance comes in, they go into the studio, they do Strength and Balance, and both things can exist very harmoniously. But to Kendra's point as well, there was a little bit of resistance, but we made it like Disney World. We killed them with kindness, and now they're here, and we love to see them. And we've gotten to know some of the participants, so it's great for us as well. But everyone from our end seems very, very happy to be there.
That's awesome. Thank you. Great. Well, thank you for the update.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just quick, I don't know if Kate, you could tell, so you're transitioning to community center and sort of the date you'll be opening there. And joining the team.
I'm happy to. I anticipate you'll probably have questions for me when we talk more about the timeline for senior center and that setup. But just quickly, we are closed as of tomorrow, 8 p.m. So our 55 West Main Street, we will no longer be operational at that location. I know we're very sad about it, but
Sad and happy.
when we come back, it will be beautiful. We'll be very excited to be back with a working HVAC system because I promised that those fan coil units would fail, and we did have one more fail. So
Time to get out.
I'm not happy about that, but it's still. We anticipate to be open in the new space, which is the first floor of the community center. Our goal is June 2nd. We're keeping a little wishy-washy in case something happens that we're not anticipating, but right now I don't anticipate anything going wrong, and if it goes wrong, it will be out of my hands. So June 2nd is our hope to be open in that space. We will communicate on all of our socials and our website, and of course any way that we can when that date comes, if there is an impact.
Great. Thank you.
Thank all three of you. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, that rolls into item 4, which is community center project timeline. Christy.
Okay. So on your agenda, we have this agenda item related to the build-out timeline. The purpose of this being on the agenda right now is because as you can see here, on December 3rd, this board took a vote to delay the community center for at least 6 months. So that being the fit out of the community center for the senior center, with a target of no earlier than 2025 fall town meeting. When you would ask for the funding for the completion of the project, and then further to make the back portion of the lower level available to the library for that temporary relocation. And the reason that this meeting is important to bring this up again is because what we've been told by our design team all along is that if we are looking to ask for the funding in October, this upcoming October, that we would need to sort of restart in the month of June. And so we wanted to have the conversation now so that if we are planning to move forward then, we're prepared for that. So once the board took that vote, we did move forward and sort of wrap up at an appropriate spot. The last time that this came before you was, I believe, January 8th, and that's when we had the design team here to give some final cost estimates. Also talked about the possibility of fitting out the lower level while the library is in that space. Had conversations with fire, DPW, and the building department. So we're at about 85% design for the phase one. So as a reminder, the phase one is just that front portion, lower level of the community center, and that would accommodate only the senior center. And actually not all of the future senior center. And I do have a slide so I can show that. So we would need to complete those design documents, develop bid documents, and then complete the bid process so that we were able to go to town meeting in October with a bid in hand. So this is a really brief timeline, but just as Kate just mentioned, they're moving in beginning the 15th. And then the project is estimated to take 12 to 14 months with completion in the fall of 2026. This was the slide that was shown by our design team when we were looking at what we would build out in phase one. And so this front space here is all intended to be the new senior center. I don't know if you can see my... Yep. So this back space here would also be some future senior center space and some veteran space. And then this future build out was largely intended under current public engagement and current design discussions to be an auditorium type location. So so this was just a part of that discussion as well. So if the library took on temporary space, and we were still planning to move forward with that fit out in the front portion, they would be able to retain certain areas of that lower level, primarily occupying that future build out space that we wouldn't be really touching in phase one. This is just Kate had provided to me the layout of the lower level for the library temporary space. The select board's vote was very clear that we were providing them the back portion. In conversations with Kate and other folks on the building committee, we essentially said, if we're not in there, you can have things temporarily located there, just don't sort of build anything or put anything permanent so that we still have that option to move forward. And so even though you're seeing things in that front area, Kate has assured me, and I know, they've had conversations with our architects. I mean, all of this work has been done behind the scenes, that if you were to decide to move forward while they're still located there, all of those things can be moved to the back. So the phase one cost estimate was just under 10 million. That was based on a May 25 construction start date because that was anticipating going to the past March town meeting to request funding. We had been told that the cost sort of per year escalation would be around 5%. So this is sort of, and talking to our OPM in the last week, they've identified that the project start date of November would be about 1.7% more. April of 26 would be 2.7%, and then estimating just over 5% if we were to wait until 27. The one thing that they did tell us, and we've actually have heard from others, is that the recent public construction bids have been favorable. because of the current market conditions, the private sector is sort of holding back on making these, making sort of improvements or doing construction projects, just sort of watching what's going on and being conservative. Sort of regardless of making this decision about when we're going to move forward for funding, there's some additional next steps related to phase one. So the first is we did get funding at the March town meeting to survey and appraise the senior center, understanding that that would be a funding source for us for the future build out. That's work that we still need to do to identify how much we would be able to get for that property, and also really important identifying how much of the property we would intend to sell, because we were talking about the potential subdivide and retaining Rogers Field versus not, and so there's work to be done there. Consideration of a sponsorship program. So we've talked a little bit about this, but our design team had actually provided us with some very basic potential sponsorship thresholds that we would need to bring to the board as a program for sponsorship for the community center, and that hasn't come to you yet. So that's something that we would want to work on this summer. Also reviewing any other available funds. So specifically, I think we would need to have a conversation about that Pulte money. I feel like we call a lot of things Pulte money, but this is the money that is specific to seniors, to go to support seniors or for affordable housing. I think we were able to fund the design using that money at town meeting. And I think we got a lot of questions about sort of how much of that is appropriately affordable housing and how much of it would be used for this project. So I think there's some additional conversation to be had around that money. Also understanding that we have not received all of that money. So having an update on that. And I should say, we receive it every time there's an occupancy permit for the Pulte project, and so that's why we haven't received it yet, because it's not fully built out. And then the completion of the long-term capital plan that would result in an update to our comprehensive fiscal management policies. So a couple years ago, Leah Talbot, the former finance director, and I came. We presented sort of a skeleton framework for this, and then with her retirement and some turnover in the finance department, I think we're at a good place in the next couple of months to work with myself and John Steinberg, our current finance director, to get this completed to bring to you. And that is actually my last slide. So what we'd be looking for today is just a discussion about the timing, again, of the phase one. And really, even if you're not sure if it would be March or the following October, what we need to decide, like this meeting would be a good meeting to do it. Definitely by the next meeting is whether or not we intend to move forward in October. So that's important for the design team and finishing that work. And I think it's also important for the library to understand.
Great. Thank you, Christy. I will open it up to the board for questions or comments. You may want to go first.
Sure. I'll jump in. Christy, thank you so much. Excited to get this update. My sense is that I would like to see the outstanding items that you mentioned there completed. I think it will go a long way, given the feedback that we've heard on the library project and surrounding the community center, to understand kind of other sources of revenue, whether they be Pulte funds or sponsorship or what have you. So I think really having a solid plan there would help this project and I hope gain community support at a town meeting vote. So I think having these things nice and tight and buttoned up is where I'm leaning, in spite of the 5.2% estimated escalation factor at the long end of April 2027. I'm eager to see improvements made there. I know many of us are, but I think we also just received a great update about how the center is being used now. And I think that with the library going in, it's going to just draw more people there. It's going to create the greater visibility. It's going to create some new ideas, because I still think we've probably got a little bit of work to do on that phase one design. I have received some feedback, which I'm not going to go into right now, about is that the right design? And I'm not saying restart. That's not what I'm saying, but there could be potentially some tweaks. And I think by using the space, it will create engagement. So I'd be in favor. The short of it is I would be in favor at this point of waiting at least until annual town meeting 2026. Probably longer based on what we've got to accomplish here, but.
I'll jump in because you hit, I would say the same thing. I don't want to, it may not be that time, but I also don't think, getting answers, we're not ready to make a decision now, which based on what the designer said, I don't see us doing anything for fall town meeting in that time frame. So I would say, like we've done here, is to basically, my recommendation would be to delay to the earliest the March of 2026 town meeting, and we'll evaluate that as we get into the fall and start looking at pieces. And that may get delayed, and we'll know more about the library project in terms of timing, but I think that can also, it may mean that we look, because if the library goes as scheduled and we know that the move back into West Main Street is happening early fall, it might be that fall town meeting is the right time, or it still could be that spring town meeting is the right time, but construction starts in the fall. So I think, my take right now is it's not the fall town meeting for us right now. I would think we wanted to delay again. And I don't want to push it to say, oh, it's 2027, because we may see things changing, but I would agree with what Shelby said, to at least push it to no sooner than March of 2026 would be my thought. But I jumped in because I agree with what you said, Shelby, but I'll listen to others too.
Yeah, I'll go. I agree with that. I think I'm looking forward to sort of the library being in there and how they utilize that space, and the opportunity for everyone to go visit that space and imagine what it will look like. I also think trying to do something while the library's in there, it diminishes the experience of the folks using the library, but I imagine it also adds cost. We're talking off hours, having to make a lot of accommodations. So that would, I think, be a poor trade-off. I'm curious, so if we go to next, say, annual town meeting, with the expectation that we would try to start as soon as the library moves back in, like we go with bids in hand annual town meeting, are those good if we don't kick off the project for another 6 months?
No. So typically it's about 30 days. So that's why I think we're always sort of coming with our bid in hand really close to the town meeting date. And that's because you have a certain period by which someone will hold their bid.
Gotcha. So even if we approved it in annual town meeting, we would have to actually begin pretty immediately.
Yeah, I mean, another way that we've funded projects in the past, though not recently, is based on estimates. And then you would ask for the money based on the estimate, and then certainly, that could lead to the need to go back to town meeting based on the actual bid. But that actually was how we typically did it. More recently, that's not how we've done it. So just putting that on the table.
We heard pretty loud and clear from the town that they didn't like us to keep going once the project started. Yes.
I actually should say, though, that and this isn't a reason to change your discussion, but the longer that we wait, the design team did highlight that there would need to be a little more work in terms of code review to make sure that everything is still sort of fitting into where it needs to be. And so there could be the potential for some additional funding needed for this completion of the design phase construction documents.
Code changes. Yeah. Got it. Okay. No, but I would definitely agree pushing it past fall town meeting.
Okay.
You want me to go?
Yeah, if you want, yeah.
Well, it's interesting because we have a very early town meeting, and I'm almost wondering if we should have, this is a whole different subject, but if our town meeting was in May, for example, or what was it? What it used to be May, right?
May.
Well,
Like,
March, I went to May.
so
I
that
went back to March.
so that April 26 would turn into a June 26, and that might line up more with the timing on the library. So the only reason I kind of looking at that April 26 number is because the cost escalator almost doubles a year later in 27 from 2.7 to 5.2, which is a lot of money. I agree with the idea of let's get the library in and out of there before we try to put something in. Let's get all of the the appraisal and everything else with the old senior center and capital plan done. And so I'm not looking to do this fall, but if you guys know me, you know I'm impatient. And there are a lot of seniors who are using this, but there's a lot of seniors who are still using the old senior center but are paying for this, right, for the acquisition. So I'm eager to get them into the space and let them appreciate, because I think once they're in the space, it's going to be phenomenal. But we're talking an April 27th project start with a completion date of what, April, 2029?
Well, I'm hoping,
I'm going to be a senior. No, I won't actually.
I will.
Well, I'll be
I'm closing in.
close.
I think that what's not in there though is November 2026, which I think is probably a more overall a realistic date, which would basically go
I
to
get
fall
that,
town
because
meeting.
We have 2 town meetings a year, and
So I'm making the estimates about 4% increase. It's still a lot, but it's.
That's exactly kind of where I was headed to. Again, I mean, I look at these and it's great. I look at what we're talking about tonight as kind of penciling in. Maybe it's erasable penning, but we're setting a bar to say, hey, we want to target next annual town meeting, but we need to have this conversation again. I think once we see how we get through those action items, those next steps, to see what's appropriate. Is it in fact still April or March of next year, or probably more than likely November of 2026?
So
and I'm right there with you, Mark, as far as eagerness. I'd love to see this.
yeah, I mean, again, I don't think we need to decide today which of those town meetings we're going to target. Right?
As long as it's not fall.
I think what we're deciding today is that we don't want to, or I don't think it's a good idea to move it forward this fall, right?
Yeah.
But we're going to have this same conversation
In the fall.
Later this fall.
Yeah, probably.
Well, as these things
6
progress.
months from now, right?
Yep.
Or so.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's going to be talking. One thing I said is we tabled the pool discussion because of the costs that came in, but the indication was that we would at least consider that for the fall, which is then more work being done there. We've talked about, we are getting the new rooftop units put in. We're going to see the results of that. I mean, there's stuff going on, which is great, and we should continue to update it, but this is also all about public communication. So that is why, in my view, we don't push it out. We don't set a date today of,
But I'm
fall
I mean,
town meeting of 2026. I'd like to say no earlier than the spring, and we'll have this discussion again. And I think most likely we'll push it that way, but who knows what's going to happen? I don't want to.
So I've made the point before that projects don't have to be mutually exclusive, but we need to make sure they're not mutually expensive. And I'm really interested to see how the finance team and Christie's leadership looks at when debt's coming off and how that will all time in, so that we can show the taxpayers that, look, we're not piling on here. We're retiring some debt, hopefully, before we take on new debt. And there's a consistent strategy of, again, I'm the new guy, what was it, like a certain percentage of debt related to overall budget. And I want to make sure we're staying within those parameters, or if we can reduce that, that's great, right? By outside, I don't call it pulting money because it's our money.
Yes.
But the senior center sale and the whatever other funding we might be able to do, sponsorships, things like that, that will hopefully keep us from borrowing more than we're comfortable with.
And just to be clear, and I think you know this, that fourth bullet is exactly what you just said. So in addition to making changes to the comprehensive fiscal management policy to talk about how we're just going to fund long-term projects, larger long-term projects anyway, we would schedule out projects and show where debt's falling off and where we could maybe plug things in.
Okay.
Someone want to make a motion?
I'll move to further delay the community center for an additional, this is for the conversation, right? This is for our next time
Yes.
to talk about this. So for an additional, you said late fall, so November?
You could just say to, you could do something similar. Sorry, I just unplugged it. But, to come to town meeting no sooner than March 2020.
I would just say for additional period of time with a target of no earlier than
No earlier.
spring, annual town meeting 2026.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Just in that motion, I want to make sure that, at least from my lens, we're clear that the pool stands
Separate.
outside of
Fall.
that. That's separate, and that's a fall
Still,
discussion. Okay.
If we
Okay.
can, yeah.
Should we amend the motion to be clear about that? Because people have short memories?
How about if we add what was in here, no earlier than fall, to ask for funding for the completion of phase 1 of the community center, which is basically what we
Okay.
talked about, the bottom floor.
Great.
If you take that amendment.
Sure.
Yes, as amended. Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Thank
Okay.
you. And hopefully that works for the information for the library, but I think you heard from our side is we want you guys to be successful in there. We want the community to come and see it. So do what you're doing right now. The plan looks great. Go with that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Exactly. Yep. Great.
Okay, next item 5, request to place downtown improvement project signage on town property. Jenny. Thank you for being patient.
Of course. I apologize, my laptop is having some issues, so I don't have the pictures of the signs, but maybe,
You wanna-
Christy, would you be able to?
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
While we're doing that, do you want to start talking and we
Yep.
can get it plugged in?
So she's pulling that up, Jenny Gingras, the Director of Planning. So for the downtown improvement project, we have our first public meeting on June 11th at 6 p.m. in the Forbes Municipal Building in the Great Hall. And we are trying to advertise it as much as we can and look at different ways to do that. And so one of the things that we've come up with was putting sandwich boards throughout town in 3 places. And then also having yard signs put in different right-of-way areas throughout town. Thank you. So I think in your packet, you do have a list of the areas that we were suggesting. So this right here would be what the sandwich board sign would look like. It's about a 24 or 36 size, about the size of a large poster board. And we are proposing to put them at the town hall in the little area right here in between town hall and the coop. The Forbes Municipal Building in front of there, and then in front of the community center as well. So this is what it would look like, and we are working with Curry Printing. There needs to be some little edits here. This was just the schematic that they helped us come up with for the presentation to the board. I recognize that, like the website, there's a little bit cut off there, so we just need to button up some things on here. This comes from our postcard that we have out now. So we wanted to keep a similar design so that it's recognizable. And then we have a similar one for the sandwich board, the yard sign. So those are smaller signs. They would be 24 by 18. We are asking for permission to put it outside the food pantry, the fire department, the right-of-way near the intersection of School and South Street, the right-of-way near the intersection of Milk Street and Spring Street, which is over by the old mill building. And then the right-of-way on East Main Street in between the CVS and Arturo's Plaza, and the pickleball courts on Lyman Street. And then we reached out to the superintendent of the schools to find out if we can put them outside the high school as well, and then Gibbons and Armstrong.
Great.
Comments? Questions?
Is there one at the senior center? Or Rogers Road or somewhere?
We do have the flyers at the senior center, but
we have the I'm assuming it'll go on the digital signboard. Okay. So
yeah,
that's
we were
probably
going to
it.
request the digital signboard. Yeah.
Okay.
Is it also possible to put it up on the
Route 9 billboards too, yeah.
That's another question. And then my question, I was just gonna make a suggestion to also put these yard signs pretty much at every recreation field.
I was just gonna say that,
Put
yeah.
it up at the Story Field, put it at, every.
Haskell.
Haskell, exactly.
Greg's Field.
Greg's Field, exactly. A lot of activities going right now, a lot of visibility. The only other concern about this, and Jenny, I appreciate bringing this forward, is that I'm a little concerned that the Great Hall won't be large enough. But I anticipate a pretty big turnout for this discussion, and I hope so.
Yeah.
That'd be a great problem.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would hope to have that problem. I've never had that problem before, but we could be prepared with an overflow room if needed.
Yeah.
But we are advertising, I think, extremely well. We started today to go into each business downtown and personally invite them. We sent it to a lot of the homeowners associations that we know of throughout town. Like I said, the library, senior center, we've asked the schools to put it in their newsletters. It's on social media. Westborough Connects is sharing it out. So I'm really hopeful that we'll get a good turnout.
What is, you probably talked about this before, but I'm just curious, what is the outreach to the businesses, specifically in the downtown area, in regards to this, and what is their opportunity to be involved, for lack of a better word?
Well, we ask that they come to this meeting, but also because we know that especially small business owners are so busy, we're offering one-on-one meetings with them. And we're scheduling those about the week beforehand. So what we started to do, it's not just me, it's my assistant town planner, and then we have a couple of people on the economic development, or the ambassadors for the economic development committee, helping out with it. Our economic development coordinator, we've kind of split up the downtown to canvass the neighborhood, so to speak. And we have a contact list. We're filling in the contact information and asking them to give us a call or email us if they want a one-on-one meeting, if they can't make the meeting. Because we know usually small business owners are so busy and they can't make this meeting for whatever reason.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
I know it costs money. One of the places a lot of people put sandwich boards is Ward's Corner, which is out kind of on West Main Street and Nurse Street.
Okay.
Just an idea. A lot of traffic by there, but that's again our standard place for letting people put sandwich boards. So
Okay. Great, thank
just
you.
just another idea.
Yeah. And I'll also just mention quickly that on our website, this will take you to our website, where we do have a specific page for the downtown improvement project, and people can submit comments. We have a form they can fill out, and they can, give us whatever comment they want about the downtown as well.
Jenny, will there be a period of time after the presentation where, so people can hear it and they can submit comments after?
Yes, yep, we'll leave open the comment ability, and then we will be having a second public meeting as well after we gather all of the feedback.
Thank you.
Great. Yep. Sorry.
Sorry, I just wanted to say I'm really excited for this, not only because of the project, but for the effort that you're putting out advertising it. I hope we get the kind of turnout you're talking about, because a lot of these meetings are not well attended. I've been at planning board public hearings that were very important with nobody from the public. At least I thought they were important.
Well, I don't know if you guys were involved with the outreach sessions that happened, with the ABC options that were reviewed. This triangle option is the one that I think most people wanted to. That was a very well-attended session. I believe there were two of them that were had, so they were both very well-attended.
Well, I thought the last B-Walt,
Yep.
Yes.
you know, and so I think what I'm trying to say is that kind of, you know, outreach, publicity, whatever you want to call it, you know, we need more of that, and I'm really happy that you're doing it. You know, I just went through a campaign where I put out a bunch of signs, so I can certainly offer up some highly visible locations, but I don't want you to, you know, spend your whole budget on yard signs and sandwich boards. So I think you know, a few highly visible spots will draw everyone's attention, and I'm excited for it, and I can't wait till June 11th, and I'll take it off my issues and correspondence. So.
Just one other comment real quick, Ian.
Yeah.
You're probably already thinking about this, but I just want to, I think it needs to be said, one of the concerns obviously with a project of this magnitude, potential project of this magnitude, is obviously the funding for it. Understanding, I'll say, the challenges around the country right now at all levels of government, I think you need to be prepared for that conversation of what the opportunities are to fund a project like this, whether it's through DOT or other means, state or federal. That might be opportunities, because I think that would be a question forefront in a lot of people's minds.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just to comment on that, this is not necessarily setting the timing of going forward, but it's getting the feedback from people as to how we want it to look. So, you know, getting back to the mutually expensive thing, right? It may be not a project we as a board or as a town that we could bring to the town for a while, because we have other things going on that we don't want to spend the money yet, right? But I think it's great to get this feedback and keep working, you know, moving this forward, because I hope, you know, to see downtown improved through this downtown improvement plan before I am a senior.
Chrissy, do you have something?
I was just going to say that, you know that we started having these development team meetings, and so there's really good discussion happening at those meetings. So sorry to steal your thunder.
I can cross that off mine.
Chrissy's trying to move us along here.
There's just really good discussion happening there as to how these projects will come to fruition, how they're going to be prioritized against other projects. So definitely more to come on that also.
Ian, can I just add?
Yep.
So just in terms of the other yard signs or locations, also Sandra Pond, that might be an area where a lot of folks go, and maybe a different area. I don't know about Bowman Conservation, you know, where the hut is. What do you call it? Pavilion. So anyway.
Some of those properties you would need to go to different boards.
Okay. All right. Well,
Depending.
Well, I would say sort of wherever there's a town place, and if you have the bandwidth to do, but great job of really getting the publicity out, getting ahead of it, planning. Really appreciate the collaboration. I know you, in our packet, you said that you would also have some yard signs as sort of bridges off of what Mark said, available for residents.
Yeah.
So how would they just kind of let you know, reach out, or how would they let someone know that they're willing to host a sign?
Yeah, so in the downtown area, one of our planning board members actually lives near the downtown area,
Yep.
and so he offered to help pass out like postcards and offer people a sign if they want it in their
Okay.
yard.
Okay.
But I mean, we're not going to order a lot of extra,
Yep.
but I think for people that live in the downtown
Sure.
area, if
Yep.
they would like one, we can give them
I
one.
live in that area, so if you want one,
Okay.
you're welcome to put one on my
Would it
front
make
lawn.
sense for the 5 of us to have one?
No.
Well, not if you're not in a visible area, it would be kind of a waste of time, to be honest.
I guess it depends, though. If people know that we are interested and we are planning on
that's
attending,
true. Okay, I take it back.
potentially.
Well, anyway, you can decide whatever.
Yeah, I would just say in our
I
motion,
mean,
maybe
if
to
people
this-
know we're on the select board, I suppose.
Yeah, if you give me one, I'm gonna call a friend who lives in a more visible
won't see yours.
location.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't get a lot of traffic on my street. I'd rather have it go,
Well, I would
you
say,
know,
I
on
would
Ward's
say,
Corner or
I would say
something,
our
yeah.
motion
Yep.
should be to approve this. I think it sounds
Yeah.
like we all
Yeah.
approve it, and then maybe even give the town man, it doesn't have to come back to us if there's a sign. I mean, I think it's,
I think we're
we're supportive of putting it on public property where appropriate.
I'll make a motion.
Can I just, I'm sorry, before you make that motion, can I just offer, Jenny, if you are interested in the 01581, there are some slots between now and before the show, so just reach out to me if you
Okay.
want to do that. Okay?
Great, yeah, I'll do that.
I was also curious if there's an opportunity at the Memorial Day Parade to provide, if you've got flyers or.
I wouldn't
no.
do that.
Okay.
No.
No.
All right, so I'll move to approve placement of the downtown improvement project, public engagement event signage on public property at the locations and formats as presented and discussed.
Second.
Wait, didn't you also want to say to authorize the town manager to approve any additional locations?
Yeah,
Yes, what she
that's
said.
what I would like.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? 5-0. Jenny,
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if you want any postcards to help hand out to anybody, we have plenty over at the planning office.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny.
Okay, next is an annual request that comes to us, a request to place poppy and sign display around Rotary. It's actually around the horse trough, I think,
Yep.
as we call it, on the side of the Rotary. But, Christie, anything for that? We've done this for a number of years, the
nothing
same.
Additional, I did, the requester, we did tell her that she didn't need to come because
Yep.
it's been an annual approval.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. We move to approve the installation of a Memorial Day poppy display from May 19th, 2025 to May 25th, 2025.
Second.
Just a question on the dates. Memorial Day's in the 26th, so does it
Oh,
go beyond? I don't know if the requester made specific.
She asked for those dates.
25th, okay.
If she
You know
leaves it
what?
up longer, I'm not gonna,
yeah,
I'm
you know what?
gonna move not to
I would
enforce it.
actually, because it should be up through Memorial Day, so I would suggest we amend it so that, in case that was an error.
Yeah.
So,
So birthday down to 27th?
Yeah.
the day after?
If she wants to take it down 25th, she can.
yeah.
Yeah.
You okay with that, Sean?
Yep. So amended, as amended.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? It's 5-0, 5 being present. Next on the agenda, item 7, liquor sales at Westborough Farmers Market on Bay State Common.
Yep, so you do, I think someone is here, yes, from the Rotary. So last year, was the first time that the Rotary Club held the farmer's market on Bay State Common. My understanding was really successful. I think we really appreciated that location. You did allow for one, I believe it was only one vendor, to sell alcohol. There's sort of two pieces to this. One is the alcohol license, and then the other is that because it's on town property, this board needs to permit that. So this year, there's an interest in increasing the number of vendors that would sell beer, wine, spirits. And so Sela in our office did reach out to our police chief to get his input. And so he did have some recommendations, which are also in your packet, just about keeping those locations together and keeping it in a visible location. So I don't know if you want to add anything here.
Yes, please.
So I'm Kristen Bradley, the market manager and the chair of the market. So it's not my request per se to add these extra vendors. So MDAR, Massachusetts Department of Agricultural Resources, has opened the sales from just wine and mead over the past years to incorporate small distilleries and small breweries. And what that does is that allows small growers and small businesses to join into the market. And like with the wine last year from Broken Creek Vineyards, her sales were incredible coming to the market. People don't come and open up a bottle of wine and sit and drink it. All of this is for consumption at home. It is not to be consumed at the market. They don't sell a glass of bourbon or, a can of beer. It is growlers, it is 6-packs, it is this kind of stuff. And the whole impetus of this is if we, for 18 days out of the 365 days in the year, have these small businesses selling their items, they can potentially move their items into the liquor stores that are all around town that right now don't want to talk to them because they're small distilleries and they're small breweries and they're not getting people asking for them. But people come to the market and then they go to the liquor store afterwards and say, hey, do you have Broken Creek Vineyards? And then they say, no, we don't. And then Broken Creek gets a call from the liquor store owner saying, hey, we've been asked to stock this. So it works in the benefit of both the businesses that are brick and mortar in town and for the farmers market as well. And again, it would not be for people to come and have a bourbon old fashioned while they're walking around the market in 90-degree weather. So I'm happy to answer any questions. But
Great. Thank you, Kristen.
Oh, yeah. So I just saw that the police chief had reviewed this and commented. He mentioned that he'd prefer if all three of them were in sort of a
so that is actually a
co-located.
requirement of MDR when we have our vendors. So in order for a vendor to even get to the point where they are applying to the town for a license and this stuff, MDR has to approve them. So what I've already done is set up where these booths are going to be in relation to myself at the market. I'm at the market from 2 hours before it opens until the last person rolls out at the end of every week. And each one of the booths is within visibility of my market info booth. So they're not necessarily 1, 2, 3 in a row, because I kind of feel like that's a little like, here's the liquor section. But they are right, like if my booth is here, they are 1, 2, and 3.
But that is the request of the chief, is that they all get together.
Yeah, the way it was pictured in the visual, it seems like that there's visibility to them. I guess I would just suggest maybe that they're in those 2 rows versus maybe.
Yeah, and that when I put those together, that was my initial marking for the year. Like last year, I had the wine originally in one spot, and then when we reorganized the flow of the market, I moved them, and I moved them actually closer to where I was, just because I want to keep an eye on it, because I don't want anything, I don't want anything happening.
So I appreciate what our police chief is saying. I mean, I think if, as the board is looking at the drawing, I think where you see the brewer, if you look kind of below the market manager tent and were to slide the Spicy Water or Broken Creek over there to sort of be more vertically in line, I mean, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, like I said, the way that I did it is also because we have a couple vendors that have to have electricity, and we only have that one electrical panel available.
Yep.
So we have to fit the different vendors where they need to go, but they will be within, 15 feet of where I am.
Okay. I think if the police chief could sign off on whatever the last version is, that would be fine.
Oh,
by
sure.
me.
Yeah, I agree. Let him review. I don't want to disregard his comments. Is there a motion?
No, I don't. I just want.
Questions?
I don't want to disregard his comments, but I also think I agree with what Kristen's saying. If you put all of them in a row, like there's a little, it would sort of be like, let's put 3 people that are selling soap, but different. One's goat and one's cow
Soy.
or soy or whatever people make soap out of. Like so, I feel like, in fairness to kind of like creating variety in the market, in a sense that spreading them out a little bit, but still keeping them within view is a very reasonable compromise. And we're, again, we have expectations of how it's managed. MDR is very specific as well. So I would be comfortable with Kristen putting this, what we're seeing, before the chief and asking him to just sign off on it.
Yeah, I mean, we also, I just totally lost my train of thought. Sorry, it's like my bedtime at this point.
Ours too.
So, I mean, we really try at the market, because I do want this to be a place that everybody in town really wants to be at. And I feel that for the benefit of all of our vendors, if we even had, we have one, Spicy Water, and then our mushroom guy, and then another one, and then another one, it makes it easier for people to look at everything. And if somebody walks in and all they see right when they first walk in are 3 liquor booths, that I'm guaranteeing you will be complaint after
Yeah, it would be a
complaint.
turnoff.
Yeah.
Especially with it being right at the playground area. So, you know, I can send it over to the chief the way that I have it, and just adjust it a little bit, because now I have more of our vendors signed up. Again, I started this back in January, signing vendors up for the season, so I didn't have everybody
Okay.
in the software.
Wait, Mark, you had something?
Yeah, I get, I'm all for this. I think it's a great addition, and I want to see the farmer's market expand, and I think you're doing a great job. But
Thank you.
are there, I know you said that people don't crack open a bottle of wine, but there is food sales and food trucks and Bay State and there's music, and Bay State Commons is kind of a nice place to hang out. Are there signs like at each of these vendors saying, making it clear that open containers are not allowed on?
We can absolutely do that.
Yeah,
I have not once had that happen, and
that's fine. I just don't want to see somebody say, I'm going to go have a picnic and crack open
yeah,
a
no, there's,
six-pack
yeah,
of-
no,
of
that,
beer or
I can
something.
absolutely
Yeah,
have signs
so I
done that
just-
just say like no on,
Yeah, maybe each vendor
consumption.
could just display while we encourage sampling.
yeah, no,
for,
no on-site
you know,
consumption. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can actually have those signs printed up and put them on.
Yeah.
I have to go through anyway at the market every week to put in what vendors are available to purchase through SNAP funds.
Yeah.
So I can go and put signs right on their tent that say no on-site consumption.
Right.
Except for tasting,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tasting is allowed. One per person.
And I think the farmer's
5.
market starts on
Depends on the day.
June 12th, right?
June 12th is opening day.
So
yes.
that takes another issues and correspondence off of my list. So I'm excited. Let's go. I hope the
Okay, is there a
weather-
motion?
I hope the weather cooperates.
Me too.
When you make the motion, can you just identify Westborough Farmers Market on Bay State Commons? Since really what you're doing is authorizing the sale of alcohol.
Basic comments.
So I would move to approve the sale of alcohol for off-premises consumption by vendors approved by the Westborough Farmers Market from June 12, 2025 to October 9, 2025, with all approved
Within Bay State Commons.
within Bay State Commons, thank you, with all approved vendors placed together in a location nearest the market manager's tent, and further to allow for,
So this additional language was just if there was any indication that there might be more vendors selling alcohol.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm not even asking for mead. I don't need a mead vendor on top of it. So we're 3 and only one of each kind per week.
So then
Okay.
you could just say together in a single location, you have the market manager as approved by the police chief.
okay, so with all approved vendors placed together in a proximity location nearest the market manager's tent, period.
With approval of the police chief.
With approval of police chief. Thank you.
Second.
Any further comments?
Oh, do we need to put the signage in the motion?
No, I think
Or
we got
we've been
agreement there,
communicated?
yeah.
Okay, good, okay.
Any further? All those in favor? 5 to 0.
Thank you for
5
your
being present.
patience.
Thank you for your patience.
very much.
Yeah, the only thing I'm just going to say, Kristen, while you're here, you're still looking for volunteers
Absolutely.
to help? Okay, so how would people reach out to you to say, I want to help at the farmer's market?
Farmers Market, WestboroughFarmersMarket.com. Our Facebook page has links right to our volunteers. We're also doing a Juneteenth event
Okay.
after the farmers market. We're reading Frederick Douglass's What to a Slave is the 4th of July. Would love to have anybody come out and
Okay.
read and listen. Sorry.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Another plug.
Yeah, that's good. That probably wasn't even on your list, Mark.
I did not have that on my
Yeah.
list. But it's going on.
Okay, we're skipping over 8 and 9, so now we're on to item 10, support of Otis Street Corridor Project Mass Works Grant Application. Christie.
So recently I came before you and asked and talked to you about the funding for Otis Street and the letter that we sent to the governor and Secretary Gorkowitz about including the money that was approved in the bond bill, including it in the fiscal 26 state capital plan. That letter was sent. I sent an additional letter along with a contract amendment asking for an amendment to our current contract to increase funding. So really looking at our funding gap and identifying ways that we can close that gap. I also met with folks from folks that own the Amazon properties who had originally partnered with us on the grant to identify this. And so in working with all of those people, it's been suggested that we might need to apply for an additional MassWorks grant to close the funding gap. We are still working on sort of some other avenues, but we want to be able to jump on this, so we're asking the board to support the application of a second MassWorks grant to approve the additional funds that might be needed for this project.
Questions? Yep.
Okay, sure, I'll go. So just to make sure I got the math correct in my head when I looked at the notes here. MassWorks originally was going to provide $2 million, or is going to provide a grant for $2 million. Mass DOT provided another $2.5 million. We originally anticipated the cost to be about $6 million, which meant 6.2 million. Okay, so we had a shortfall of about 1.7 million, if my math's correct. Now we're anticipating a shortfall of closer to 4.5 million. Okay. Is there any expiration on the grants that we've been provided so far?
Some of the grants that we have, and one of the grants that actually that's missing from this, which was identified after, is we also have a $500,000 Complete Streets grant. So one of
Anything expired.
Some of them do have funding timelines. The MassWorks Mass DOT money, you know, we were able to reach out, as you know, on our last MassWorks project for Flanders Road. We were able to get extension. We got some of that was ARPA money, because in addition to some of these grants, the town also had awarded $250,000 to this project through our ARPA money. So we are following those timelines closely. We are spending money because we are working with the design team for the project. So it hasn't been completely put on hold. It's moving forward, but as we're getting closer to potential bidding of the project, we need to have the construction funds available to sign a contract.
Just bear with me for a moment. I'm kind of a little bit of devil's advocate here in regards to if, for example, we don't get this additional grant that we're talking about, and we do have timelines that we're up against here, what is the opportunity to modify the design to still leverage these funds? Because this is an important project for that area.
So we've already started working with them on value engineering in anticipation of potentially having that funding gap. One of the things that we've tried to highlight for the state as we talk about this project is that a significant portion of the project, and therefore a significant cost, is on a state road.
Right.
And it's at a dangerous state intersection. And so, you know, that's something that we've been really talking about and highlighting because there needs to be that partnership. And some of the delay is because we don't have the funding. So it's not really typical for, as I understand it, it's not really typical to get approval of a MassWorks project but not have it be fully funded.
Right.
And so that's sort of where we started. We started behind. So.
Thank you.
Question?
No, I'm fully supportive of this. I mean, this intersection is one of the most dangerous in the state. We've been talking about it since, well, at least since I've been on this board, probably
Another
before.
accident this weekend.
Yeah. So it needs to be enhanced for safety, for business, for residents, for, you know, transportation using the T. So I'm fully supportive of anything we can do for to bridge the gap here.
Because just one quick question: is there any for this new money? Would there be any town? I mean, I know we've already allocated money. We did the ARPA money. Is there any additional town funding that would be required for this?
I'm only hesitating because we haven't sort of worked out exactly what this would look like. I mean, we're working with a consultant that's helping us, which is not something that we are paying for. But no, there would not be, because okay. I think that we feel like we've made that contribution through the ARPA funds. You know, more to come, I guess, on sort of how everything comes together. But
right now the intention is no.
As far as the MassWorks grant requiring a match, it does not require a match.
Perfect. Is there a motion?
So I would move to support the application of a second MassWorks grant to provide additional funds for the Otis Street Corridor project.
Second.
Any other comments?
I
All
did
those in
have
favor?
I did have comments, but.
Oh, you can do it now.
No, that's all right.
Just slap me sometime.
It's all right. Well, let's keep it.
I'll slap Shelby and then she'll slap me. Okay, we're moving on. Item 11, fiscal year 2026 waste management program. Jen, I see back here.
Yeah,
And John. Yeah. John was hiding in the way back.
Pardon me, before they get started, I also see Chief Gordon back there. I was this yesterday, Chief, or was it Monday? Over at the transfer station, my father-in-law had an episode, and Chief Gordon happened to be the coordinator at the transfer station and managed to get my father-in-law seated and call the ambulance to help him. And since I saw you here today, I wanted to publicly say thank you. Thank you very much. Above and beyond, as always.
He's a regular there. We love him there. See him in that condition, he was very.
Yeah.
Thank
you.
He's a real nice job.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I know he thinks the world of you too, so thank you very much. Back to regular program.
John, I almost didn't recognize you.
I know, it's my summer cut.
Your summer cut? Wow, looks good. I like it.
Thank you.
Yeah, the beard looks better, John.
This is the real
I like them both ways. I'm just acknowledging.
Shelby.
I know.
Hi, I'm Jen Sullivan, the Public Health Director. I'm here for a waste management program update for you. This is just a review of what.
Can you just pull that down for just?
Yep.
We get comments from people on TV that if
Okay.
you don't talk in, they can't.
This
hear
is a review of what has happened from July 1st to now. As you know, effective July 1st, the town implemented a pay-as-you-throw program, and we also added a waste management coordinator positions and they provide education and monitoring of the waste and recycling. Effective November 1st, the contract actually came into effect with Harvey's and included the following major changes, which is the elimination of voluntary private curbside program subsidy of the tipping fees. Change in per ton charge for the transfer station waste, recycling charge, which is now we are responsible for paying for glass and plastic recycling. And the transfer station recycling stickers went from 2 years to 1 year. The 2 years we charged $180, and the 1 year we changed to $40. The transfer station is open Monday through Friday from 8 to 4, and then 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Saturday. And as far as the costs, John will be.
So, John Steinberg, Finance Director. So this is just a review of sort of how we're doing. We put this program in place, the pay-as-you-throw, and as you can see from the top, our tonnage of waste is substantially down, as we were hoping, as they had told us it would, and it is. And the total recycling is up. I mean, that's part of the point, is that people would recycle more, they would throw out less, and as you can see by the numbers, that's happening. In the middle, it shows how the rates per ton has changed over the years. If you recall a few years back, there was a big jump. And so all of the numbers, when you get to the bottom of the cost, take into account the fact that we're now paying more as well. So there's a contract adjustment that's being absorbed. If you look at the bottom, your cost of trash, you can see that the waste cost is substantially down, picked up essentially by the cost of recycling. So you can see it was $96,000 in 2024, and it's essentially $96,000 in 2025. Then you would add the wheelabrator costs, which are down because we don't have tipping fees and we have less trash, right? Less trash will pay wheelabrator less. We do have the added cost now of the pay-as-you-throw bags, but you can see with the net change from 2024, 2025, even with the addition of paying for recycling and the higher contract fees were very close to what our total cost was for the program in 2024 at $201,724 compared to $192,653, and that includes that $38,000 for the bags. Now, mind you, we are also selling the bags, so there's additional revenue that's coming in as well. It's about $190,000 in revenue to date in the sale of the bags. That's how we're doing.
Great. John, sorry, just back on that. So is that, if I heard that correctly, does that mean that we're paying like $11,000 if I add that correctly? $190,000 you said for the bags?
Yeah, about that, in sales of bags.
So total cost of 201, but we have 100. That seems great, but that wasn't.
Well, you have to also add in, there's the employee cost. I mean, there's some other costs that go into it. This is just the raw cost of the waste.
Perfect. Okay, that makes sense. Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you. Not fully loaded.
This is why we had John do those slides.
Yeah.
One of the topics of, I think, great discussion that we had as this program was being rolled out last year was also the incremental change of plastic recycling and the anticipated cost savings there. So it's great to see all these numbers are all headed in the direction we're all hoping for. But do we have the numbers from Waste Connections in regards to the tonnage as far as plastics versus glass versus?
We do actually have that breakdown. It's not shown here, but I can provide that also.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Yeah, we get a pretty detailed report. We actually have a breakdown of the other recycling as well that we're not paying for, so we can forward that along to the board.
If I remember correctly, we were guesstimating at $100,000 reduction in costs as a reduce of breaking out the plastic recycling. And I'm just curious.
Well, that was a trade-off.
That was the trade-off,
Yeah.
right?
Right, because we added $100,000 for the payment of the recycling,
Yep.
and the total recycling cost is included in the budget, so it's a total expense. So a reduction in the waste, increase in the recycling.
Yeah, I'd just love to understand, see how that's lined out as far as do we actually hit or achieve that?
Yep.
Where are we? So,
Yep.
thank you.
Anything else? Any other questions?
No.
All right. I'll come back.
Not yet.
So as you can see, our goal was to reduce waste and increase recycling, which is what we're doing. We're actually really happy with the program so far. Moving forward, new stickers will be available for sale June 1st, and the effective date of those stickers cannot be used until July 1st, though. They will be available online and in our office. We are also requesting to add a substitute waste management program coordinator which will have the same job description and will not affect the budget whatsoever, to cover the absences of the current waste coordinators. And also, big news, I met with the Harveys yesterday, and they are actually planning on moving the transfer station. Yeah, I was a little shocked myself. I think it's actually a really good move for safety reasons. I can go through the map with you for this. So currently the arrows in red are what is existing. So you come down the road, you enter here. This is the offices, and you go to here, and this is the transfer station. And this will no longer be here. So this will be just for commercial use only. They're proposing that we move the transfer station to this entrance, and you'll drive back. Right here would be recycling, and this is actually a drop-off where you it's a loading dock, so the garbage and waste containers are actually where these tractor trailers will be, and so there'll be no lifting of the bags. They were willing to put in the compactors, which is in our contract. However, I asked them not to, because if the waste goes in the compactors, you can't monitor what goes in them. So unfortunately, people will utilize that and get rid of illegal waste. So they're going to be using the trash containers that we currently use. Right now, this building here is not being used currently and will not be used. Kelly actually has a little shed right here that will also have shelter for them over at the next area as well. So I think this is actually very beneficial to us. It's a safety, it's always been a concern there for safety. So I think this is actually a really smart move.
And is it a loop to get back out? Is that how it works? or-
No, they're actually widening this and paving this from road to the area. And it will be two-way.
Two-way. But you come in and you come.
Yeah.
So since January of last year, the conveyor belt has been broken. And when we put the contract together, we highlighted that they needed to have the conveyor belts or the trash compactors, which neither has been put in place yet. So that was something that we highlighted as we considered continuing this program into fiscal 26. And that's when they met with Jen and offered this alternative. And so if we are agreeable to this, then the contract will require an amendment that removes that requirement. But as Jen just mentioned, when we have our waste management coordinators there, they're able to sort of monitor what's being thrown in. If it goes into a compactor, it goes away immediately, and so it would be more difficult. And we've had great success with their education and enforcement. And so this new road, what was the target date that they remove it?
So they think it will be done in July. However, the latest date it will be is August 1st.
Great. Yes.
Yeah, so I'm concerned about that last piece. As a user of dump for many, many years, very frustrated by the fact that we are having to dump out of, and I'm actually a lucky one because I've got a truck. I can stand in my truck and actually throw right into the dumpster. It's not a problem. All my red bags right in, right? My understanding is that our program coordinator, former chief, and former Jen Gibo are down there, and they're watching that waste go in anyway. I don't see there any difference as far as that role is concerned between the compactor and what's going into those large 15 or 30 yard dumpsters. Right? As a matter of fact, there's less visibility into what's being thrown in there as opposed to looking into the hopper and seeing what's in there and requiring it to be pulled if necessary. So to me, the current situation is just barely bearable. I was down there the other day, and the volume of cars in and out and the wait time to get in and out was really difficult. I'm curious to see how this will play out with this new location, and I would like to see more detail on what that would look like with the recycling of cardboard and all the other pieces and how that'll actually, look like. But having the 5 or 6 30-yard receptacles down there now is barely usable, and if that's the size and the scope of what they're planning to put down in the new location, I would much rather see a compactor down there because it speeds up the process, gets people in and out much quicker.
So if there was a compactor, the waste coordinators would not be able to see the waste, and currently even when they will throw the trash in the waste bins, and Al actually has a hook and fishes in.
No, I get it, but right now you have a 5-foot 30-yard dumpster. You can't see in there once some.
No, but these are
right. These
are.
If
you have a compactor, it's down low.
No, this is going to be level now.
Yes.
They're saying they're going to put them lower so we can look at it.
Yeah, it's on.
Walking, there will be no lifting.
There'll be no lifting. It's like it's a loading dock, so the people that come in will be higher than what the.
Well, we used to be able to get like 6 or maybe 8 cars in front of the compactor, and now you can get it. What is it? Is there 5? It's 5 total now.
So the waste containers are not going to be where the cars are. There's a wall, and it will be behind the wall and lower.
No, I get that. I'm just talking about the number of vehicles that could be handled at any one point in time. Previously, we were able to get up to, I think it was 8 or even perhaps more cars depending on the size of the vehicle could pull up and dump at the same time. Now it's only 5.
Can I just kind of jump in here? Like, I appreciate maybe some level of frustration, although I haven't heard it from anyone. So this is your personal experience. I'm actually shocked that Harvey's is making this change, or Waste Connections. I'm actually at a little bit of a loss for words. I think this is a huge safety improvement.
Yes.
And And quite frankly, if people are waiting a few minutes to kind of dump their trash, and I mean, I've been there on the weekends. I don't see as much. Again, I have not heard a cry from the community that's saying it's not working. I actually haven't heard that at all. And I would say that this is an improvement. I have a question about composting. I'm assuming that's going to be over there too, but this is an improvement from a safety perspective, and I think actually will help with traffic flow because you're not waiting for commercial trucks coming from the right, the left, crossing in front of you at all hours of operation.
Sylvia, I don't want to seem like I absolutely see those same values as far as traffic flow. Absolutely, this is, from what I can see, it's going to be an improvement. But that's not where my question's coming from. My question's as far as the receptacles themselves, and the speed by which people can get in and out. And if you've seen somebody pull up to those current 30-yard, now granted, if these are going to be low
Yep.
ground, that's a good thing. So
Yep.
I can appreciate that piece of it. Currently, the situation is somebody has to lift their trash up.
Yeah,
And it's strenuous.
Right. So Jen is saying that that's not going to be the case, number one. And number two, I don't think, again, goes back to my being so surprised that Harvey's hasn't put in a compactor yet. They're not about to do it now. It's never going to happen. I just, having been in those discussions, I don't know, you guys tell me, I don't.
Sounds like the chief wants to speak too, but
Sorry.
yeah.
Go
ahead.
So they actually offered to put compactors here, and I said no because we don't have the visibility of what is actually being thrown away.
Okay.
So they were willing.
Okay.
This is the first I've seen of this tonight when I came in and Jen showed it to me. And I think it's tremendous. You know, what we have now is we've got the commercial business going on there along with the town's business going on. And it's a safety issue. We had an issue the other day with somebody going around one of the trucks, almost hit somebody in the crosswalk. And one of the drivers get into a confrontation with one of our residents because of the way the guy was driving. We're going to alleviate that problem. We're not going to have the crisscrossing and everything. So I think with the way they're describing everything, it's going to help. You know, one of the problems we have with the backups, as you've seen there, is especially on a Saturday, we fill out the dumpsters are filling up very quickly. We have to empty them. So when we're emptying the dumpsters, we have to stop all traffic from coming in. That's not going to be the issue here. They will be recessed into the ground beyond, so they will not have to pull them out amongst all the vehicles that are coming in.
It's just major liability there.
Does this have to, I'm just curious, I forget, curb cut, planning board, you know, traffic, all that kind of, does Harvey's have to bring this before planning board to?
I don't believe so. I will check with Jenny, but I don't believe so because it's already an existing use that's there.
An existing roadway or?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
But good question. And will composting be over there as well,
Yes.
Jenny? So, okay.
Well, they do have to.
Well, food
permit of some
composting,
kind.
not
I
the
don't
actual
know if
brush.
They have to go.
Sorry, yes.
Yeah, I was just thinking the traffic in and out of that.
I don't think they have to
Right
do
now,
a
maybe
site.
you guys know there's
I don't think they have to do a site plan, but they do have to get a permit, right? I mean, they're not going to.
I will be checking with Jenny for sure. But that's something that they'll also be handling, obviously, but I will double check.
And I can't just throw a new driveway in without, you know.
But I don't think it's new.
No, it's an existing road.
And it's something that's permitting through us as well as the health department.
Okay.
So,
well, I would think if there's some kind of structure involved, whether it be a wall. I mean, I'm not familiar with that side of the facility, so.
So there's an
But it's something you're gonna
existing.
check.
Yes, I will check
That's
into it.
fine,
There,
yeah. I mean,
there's also an existing well.
They may need a permit.
Yeah.
but
There's going to be no physical change on site besides the paving.
Do we anticipate any cost savings by not having a compactor in the contract if that's removed?
No, because we are charged per ton, so it doesn't matter if it's compacted or not.
Well, it could be more expensive with a compact, so people could take advantage of throwing things in there when Al wasn't looking.
Yeah. We've removed 4 individuals so far from the transfer station for doing so.
My wife wasn't one, was she?
Your wife's great.
Oh, you are not welcome home tonight.
We would have a question, Maureen.
Thank you.
So,
as long as it wasn't Sean's father-in-law.
Yeah, no.
No,
He just put signs where he shouldn't.
that's right.
okay, so.
Co.
We can stop about that.
I'm sorry, are we done?
Oh,
No.
no, so
Sorry.
One
next action
one
items.
question. I know It used to be that local community groups could sort of solicit there in front of the offices.
Yep.
And I know that Waste Connection stopped that practice, and I understand it. There's commercial vehicles, everybody there. I don't know if the new location, if they might allow community groups to do that again. I mean, it's not contingent upon the change. It's more curious.
I can ask.
Thank you.
They have allowed some
Yes,
groups
they
to
have.
be there. I can't remember exactly which one it was. It
Girl
might have been a
Scouts,
Rotary.
Girl Scouts, Rotary, yep.
So
They
they
have
were allowed to be at the entrance coming in, as long as they stood off to the side,
Yep.
so.
And that's
This
a
seems
perm-
like it'd be a safer place for them now.
Absolutely.
There's no
And that's a
commercial.
permission that is sought by, it has nothing to do with the town. People can request that. But I think just knowing that there's interest in doing that, and it is a highly visible spot, so.
Gotcha. So the group that I know just might have bothered them somehow. Okay.
Don't know.
Okay. All right.
Didn't ask the right person.
Apparently.
So there's 3 action items for the board. So one of them we haven't really talked about, but one is related to our contract with Wheelabrator. So our contract with Wheelabrator is a contract that is with 30 other communities. It was a 20-year contract. That group of communities is coming back together to renegotiate the contract that will end in fiscal 27, I believe. And so one request of the board tonight is to approve Westborough's participation in negotiating that successor agreement, including contributing to legal fees. So any legal fees that were expended in that negotiation, we would have to be assessed some amount of that. The other action item is to authorize me to finalize and send an extension agreement letter to Harvey's, as well as allowing the amendment of the contract related to taking out the requirement for the compactor's conveyor belts, related to what Jen said. So that is actually up on your screen, is probably more appropriate, just because it's going to be a contract amendment. And then the third is to add that substitute waste management program coordinator position, which again would be under the same job description that you've already approved, and it would just be for the purpose of substituting when someone is out. And there's no budget impact because they're all non-benefited positions.
Can we do those as like separate motions just to,
Yeah.
there's a lot there.
Yeah.
Christy, on the Wheelabrator contract, you'll be negotiating that?
So I offered to be on the team, but I was not chosen. So it's folks from other communities that are doing it. So there's 20 communities, and they were looking for a team of 7, I think.
Okay.
So
You failed.
I failed, sorry.
Okay.
She tried.
All right.
Are we bound by that negotiation? Or-
Ultimately, whatever agreement they reach, we would have to authorize on our own.
Okay.
So.
But it's going to be better than us trying to negotiate on our own.
No, I
Yeah.
agree with that, but I'd like to see the result.
Oh, we'll have to
Yeah.
vote on it, yeah.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have to vote.
Interesting. Okay.
Other questions?
Thank you for offering.
If there aren't other questions, I do agree with hitting these separately, so.
All right. Someone want to
Move to authorize the town manager to finalize and send the extension agreement letter to Harvey's/Waste Connections for the purpose of extending the contract for a period of 1 year, July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026.
Including amending the contract to remove
up above.
the requirement for certain equipment as presented.
As amended.
Second.
Hey, any comments on that? All those in favor? 5-0.
Move to amend the classification plan to add a substitute waste management program coordinator using the same job description to provide coverage during staff absences.
Second.
Hey, all those in favor? 5-0, 5 being present.
Move to approve Westborough's participation in negotiating a successor agreement for waste disposal for multiple communities, including contributing to legal fees.
Second.
We don't have to say anything specifically about Wheelabrator in there? No. Okay. Okay, all those in favor?
Can I just ask, just on that, so do you have any sense of how we would be updated about those negotiations?
It's really early in the process.
Yeah.
So, actually, Jen, do you have anything?
They will have meetings along the way, but I know that they've been, it really, like Chrissy said, it's very early. But they will email and then we'll have some meetings for updates.
Okay, and are those public meetings, or because of negotiations, they're done under executive session by that body?
It's not a
Staff.
body subject to open meeting law, so it would just be staff for a moment.
Staff, okay, so you'll keep us apprised of what's going on? Okay, great, thanks.
Okay, anything else? All those in favor? It's 5-0, 5 being present. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks all for being
John,
here.
thank you. Al, thanks for your input. Okay, next, item 12, request for letter of support for District Local Technical Assistance Amendment number 664.
So this is for District Local Technical Assistance, or DLTA funding. We use DLTA funding sometimes when we work with CMRPC. We apply for this DLTA grant, and then CMRPC can work with us over and above the hours that were afforded just as participating members of CMRPC. So in the current budget, the DLTA funding was cut by $2 million. So this letter is a letter of support for restoring that funding, and I actually think it's $4 million that they're looking for DLTA funding. So a letter was sent out to all the communities. I know that our planning board is considering sending the same letter.
So I'd move to authorize the chair to send a letter to the delegation regarding restoration of the DLTA funding in the state budget.
Second.
Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Let's hope my signature works.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, item 13, request to sign proclamation for eBridge Montessori 20th anniversary.
So our economic development coordinator was invited to the 20th anniversary event at the eBridge Montessori School. So she asked that the board sign a proclamation that she can present to the business.
As you noted, we've done this for other Central House, Knights of Columbus, Harry's before.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Yep, so I move to authorize the select board to sign the proclamation as presented. I don't think we need to read it, right?
No.
Second.
Okay.
Okay, moving seconded. Any comments, questions? Not, all those in favor? It's 5-0, 5 being present. Thank you. I'm assuming we'll have that to sign after.
Yeah, I have it.
Okay, the next is item 14, Select Board Town Manager Goal Measurement.
Yeah, so this is an update to the draft that I provided last meeting. I had given it to you right before the meeting, so you hadn't had a chance to look at it. You did offer some comments, which I tried to capture in this new version. I do want to point out and apologize that I went back on my notes, I was missing that last goal of the Board of Selectmen. So number 7, you'll see on page 2, was develop budget goal and address FY26 reductions was the goal that we established at the retreat. And so the action items under there were sort of 2 pieces, which is why you see a 1 through 5 and then a 1.
That was a big question.
Yeah. So and I can delineate that better, but it would be a finance team discussion. So town manager and finance director would present previous goals, the history of meeting that goal or not, and then recommendations for future budget goals. And then we would make a presentation to the select board, incorporating finance team suggestions, receive feedback, and then we would want to finalize that goal based on the select board's feedback, present the final policy to the finance team. I think it's really important to go back to the finance team because we have folks from the school committee as well as the finance committee there. And then we would go through our typical process where we present to the finance committee, the school committee, and then finally to the selectmen for approval of the policy amendment. That was never in the policy previously, but I think that it should be in some sort of policy, even if we decide it's not the comprehensive fiscal management policy, because I think now we're sort of going back to minutes, so it'd be better to have it in a policy. And then that number 1 speaks to the second piece of the goal, which is the FY26 reductions. I think really the first step of that is to receive a presentation from me regarding the 26 reduction impacts and any recommendations that I might have for restoration. So a good example of that is what we just talked about tonight. We're going to move forward with the WRTA program. There, I don't want to say never, but there may not be a need to look to restore that $20,000 that we previously had in the COA budget, as an example. But I think everything else is very similar to what was read last time. I did add under the number 5 under the select board on the first page. I added looking at other towns. Actually, you just got an email from the
Moderator
who's done some of that work for us, so that's great. And then talking about receiving public input is also.
Great. So there are questions or comments from folks?
I think the only question I have is, in the past, we've sort of divided things up where we had a couple, one or two individuals working with the town manager or other teams, what have you. I feel like given how we've structured it and the nature of what our goals are, that we wouldn't be doing that at this time, at least. Maybe as we get a little further in. I think number 6 is the exception, where you have chair and vice chair exploring town and school. That's specific. But would you guys agree? We've done that in the past.
We did do it. It's a little bit unusual because really your responsibility is policy making. We've never done this piece, which is new this year in terms of identifying the tasks. I don't think anything's different from how we've done it in the previous year, except that the tasks that we know needs to happen is sort of clearly identified here. So, but I feel like it sort of happens organically too.
Yeah. When I look at some of the underlying ones, like I just look as sale of senior center, it might be that we put 2 people on there, similar to what we did with the purchase of the community center. So there'll be things that organically will
that's fine.
We'll jump in. I think if we have a charter review committee, if we decide to do that, we may have a representative on the charter review committee.
I also think it allows us to time the different goals throughout the year, as opposed to everyone sort of getting started at the same time, because there's staff involvement in all of these. So.
Sure.
So you looking for us to?
I'm not sure. So I think that we just wanted to. I know that the purpose of this, which I think makes a lot of sense, is to be able to measure performance and measure accomplishing the goals. So you could adopt these. I don't know that you need to. I think this would just be the document that identified steps, because it might be that you're changing them too, and I don't think you would want to have to keep rebuilding.
Well, any further comments on this, or do we move forward with what's here for now? And if there's,
I think it's a good summary of what we talked about. And, I don't see anything missing from what we discussed. Or
it doesn't mean that we can't change, because we will adapt as we move along and learn things.
I think we should have a motion, though, just to say that we've sort of accepted it.
Okay.
So I would move to accept the select board goals and town manager goals for FY 2026 as presented, with the understanding that they may be further amended as the work goes forward.
Performance measures, because you already accepted the goals.
Yep.
Performance measures, sorry. I said that wrong.
Yep.
Okay. All those in favor? 5-0. Thank you, Christy. Beat me to it. Okay. Item 15, naming policy and attempt to seek nominations for naming of cemetery located on Nurse Street.
So I put this back. We put this back on the agenda. You received it last time. I think there was a lot of feedback. I did remove the whole sponsorship section. I also took out the numbering so that it didn't look like we were prioritizing certain criteria. I did also put in, there was discussion about where we were publishing. I did, so I highlighted it. So,
with local circulation.
Yeah, so I did put in something about it going into the newspaper to the extent practicable, and the reason is if we have a really, really long list of names, we might the newspaper might just say like refer to this website. So it's just, but if it's 3 names, then we can certainly publish those. I added section C, which gives you the ability to submit your own name without having to seek petition or signatures.
Well, not our own name.
Right. Well, I mean,
Well, I guess you could, perhaps, but the select board submits it, a name, yeah.
and then under F, just clarifying that the select board retains the right to deny any or all proposed names. So if you don't find that you have any that you like, you can sort of cancel that.
Go back to the drawing board.
I appreciate your work on this and taking the feedback and putting it in there, incorporating it, so thank you. I'll make a motion.
Any other amendments or questions? Make a motion. Oop. Chris.
Good evening. Brought me back to old times, 2 hours on. I'm Chris Allen, a member of the Westborough Historical Commission. As you probably know, the Westborough Historical Commission, one of its main roles in town is to preserve, protect, and oversee the town cemeteries, from the Puritan Pine Memorial Cemetery across the street, South Street Cemetery, and Pine Grove Cemetery. We also have as a responsibility of naming new streets. So it seems totally reasonable and makes great sense that the Westborough Historical Commission be involved, and primarily involved, in the naming of the new cemetery and also in setting policy and being involved in that process as well for the process of naming cemeteries, because that is one of our major roles in town, as one of the 3 roles we have, which is overseeing the cemeteries, taking care of the archaeological displays, and identifying and preserving vintage homes in Westborough. So I'd like to request that the Westborough Historical Commission be incorporated and involved in this particular process, and anything actually that has to do with town cemeteries.
Thank you. Yep.
Chris, is that specific only to those properties that are under the charter that you're at, of the Historical Commission that you're requesting that for? You're not requesting it for all naming?
No, it's for public cemeteries, cemeteries that are owned by Westborough and are public, not private cemeteries.
Okay. Well, no, I guess I was thinking about the public.
But just cemeteries.
Just cemeteries.
Yeah,
No other
just
public
cemeteries.
properties. Okay, thank you.
Just cemeteries.
Yeah, so you're just concerned with the proposal to name the cemetery, because this policy is for naming any town-owned, or not any town-owned property, but any town-owned property that we have.
That have a name.
Well, that is under our control, right?
Right.
Like
Right.
under the select board's purview.
Right.
Right, like so I guess what I'm saying is, like, are you asking us to revise the policy, or are you just asking for us to put a clause into the naming of that cemetery that we get some type of vote of confirmation or approval or
At this
support?
point, it would be to be involved with the naming of the new cemetery. But because we're involved in naming of streets, and again, this all goes back to the consciousness of history and local history and the importance of people in Westborough, naming any public property would make sense to have the Historical Commission involved, as they are in new streets. And I unfortunately have not read this policy because it hasn't been circulated to the Historical Commission. I guess what I am asking is that we be involved and just incorporated as part of our role.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't looked at the Historical Commission. I would say that I appreciate the comments. I think we should take this back. I don't think we should vote on this tonight. Let's take it back and take this under advisement. And
Yeah, I would
My
just,
understanding is the commission has an advisory role to the planning board in naming of new developments
That's-
and streets within them.
That is exactly correct. From the website, if I may. The commission works with the planning board when the planning board receives proposals for new residential developments. The commission advises in the naming of new developments and in the naming of streets within such developments. In addition, the commission reviews all site plans affecting properties which may have historical or archaeological significance, which I believe would be a cemetery. When deemed appropriate, the necessary research is undertaken by the commission, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, I mean, I think, I don't think we're in a like immediate rush. I think that having the historical commission take a look at that and perhaps provide input specific to their stated role, I'm fine with that.
So I could provide language, and then that would include them. But I would just want to understand. Would you expect that they would have a role in all of it, just an advisory role in all of it, or just for cemeteries?
Well, within, I mean, they already have a role in naming new streets and development as part of their work with the planning board. So, I mean, I feel like there's some sort of statement, I'm not trying to amend the policy now, but that says, you know, this policy shall not conflict with the historical commission's role in blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I think take it back. I mean, I think ours is clear as municipal property, so I don't know that streets, I guess I wouldn't.
I mean, public ways, but you're right, there's already a process for that. That's not the intent.
But I think the cemeteries, because that's the first one that most likely will come up here and there is a role that I would suggest we just take it back, take a look at it, and if you want to suggest language, I think we can share it with the historical commission. We can look at it to.
Yeah, I mean, I think Christy, specifically asking you to draft language to present amending this policy that is provides an opportunity for the historical commission to provide input as to the naming, you know, the context of naming a municipal property is what we're looking for.
So that's what I thought.
So
yes.
So any municipal property.
So I would just say that under F, the select board holds a public hearing that will include consideration of submitted comments. Maybe we could add a bullet there saying letters of support from relevant committees or committees with, you know, not whether it's a historical commission, the rec commission,
Well,
the school department, the
Well, it's number 3, right? Number 3, F3. Applicant or relevant committee department representatives to speak on the naming request.
right. I mean, I think that could cover it, but maybe just give them a chance to meet and have a vote. I mean, I'm not sure where
It
that
sounds like
falls.
you want to specifically call out this one.
Well, I think I don't know. I'm just saying let's go back because I don't know. We just read it here, but this is
New information.
new information for me personally. I think we should make sure we take it into account.
Right, and I'd like to make one more comment. I think it's very important, and the Westborough Historical Commission does, in building a sense of community, in naming streets that do have some historical significance. That historical significance could go right up to 2000 or beyond, but to emphasize the pride in history builds community. And to have the Historical Commission involved in the naming of properties so that it reflects the pride in our history, I think is very important. And that's why I believe the Historical Commission should have a role in this.
So, yeah, and I guess I just want to make sure we're not, I mean, the definition of the Historical Commission is defined, I believe, by Mass General Law, what it is and what it isn't. I don't think Westborough made up its requirements of that. So I think we should look at what is the definition, what are the responsibilities, and make sure that aligns with an opportunity for the Historical Commission to provide input where it's appropriate. I'm not sure it should be on every property. I don't know. I mean, I think that back to Ian, to what you were saying is I just need to think about that. Cemeteries, that to me is obvious because it's archaeological, but every single property, I'm just not sure.
Yeah, I guess I'm right there with you, thinking about this, you know, both you and Ian in your comments. I just, the historical relevance is that's a big bucket, and you can say any piece of property under the mandate of the select board has potential historical relevance. So I don't know if there's a line that can be drawn. I agree with you, Ian, we need to keep this back, think about it a little bit more. Mark, yeah, I think it's covered here because I think that the Historical Commission, just like any other body in town, has the opportunity to hold within their own open forum space a vote of support on a name. I can imagine a scenario where 2 or 3 names get brought up to the board. The Historical Commission says at their meeting, hey, we want to review this, they want to approve it, they come before us during a public hearing and they say, we voted X, Y, and Z in support or against whatever it is for whatever reason. That's kind of how I see this playing out. I don't know if there's a boundary, like a better word, that we can put on the term historical relevance.
Yeah, I guess my thing is I just think we need to do more research because I didn't know this was news to me tonight. So I don't want to. I think we give it to Christy to go back and look at it and then figure it out because I don't.
Well, and particularly cemeteries.
Yeah, I think it may be particular cemeteries. I don't know that we have to talk about streets because that's already covered there, and we're not. I don't think this talks about streets, so we would change that. Yeah.
I think that what you brought up, we should. I agree that we should have the discussion, but I just think that just so we're clear, Mass General Law does not say that Historical Commission's name cemeteries. Like I understand why we want the Historic Commission to weigh in, but it says that they are mandated to protect and preserve them. So I guess what I'm saying is that's why this is sort of new.
Yep.
But that being said, it makes sense to me that they would be part of it.
We haven't named a cemetery in a long time.
Yeah. So I think from my standpoint, there's a difference between getting letters of support, asking for the Historical Commission's advice and opinion, and requiring their approval before we approve something, right?
Correct.
I mean, so I think that's what we have to consider.
Correct.
And and believe me, I'm not going to name a cemetery without consulting Chris. So,
Thank you.
I mean, I don't know enough about the history of town. I've only been here since '03, so I certainly want people.
No, I think we just take it back, and Chris, I think you're hearing here, and let's take it back and make sure. My big thing is that we don't go with a policy that then, and I don't know that it is, but is in violation or doesn't include something that we should include.
It's not in conflict with Mass General Law, but it's a fair request.
And
we could set a policy if our Historical Commission charter or whatever we want to call it, rules and regulations say one thing, we should make sure we incorporate, and it could be for other things too. So.
Yeah, and what I don't want to do is also set a precedent for the Historical Commission that somehow alienates another board that would say, well, if we were naming a recreational field, why wouldn't the Rec Commission be consulted on the naming of it? So I think we just need to think about this. Chris, I appreciate you bringing this forward to us, creating some awareness about the role of the commission. And I mean, my intent would be to be collaborative in that. I just think we need to be clear as to kind of roles and responsibilities.
So, just to be clear, though, we can't name something that's under the care and custody of the Rec Commission. They would have to name it, right? Like that's not our decision.
Right.
And same with care and custody of conservation. We can't turn around.
Well,
and
the
say,
community center
Well, hold
is.
on. I mean, Story Field we need.
The Rec Commission.
Okay, well.
Like Smith, Veterans Freedom Park was not given to the recreation, but Story Field was, right? So they had the ability to. Am I missing that?
We need that.
Okay.
I think that's why we need a consistent policy around.
But I think like the Zwicker property was given to conservation. I don't think we named that. I think, or did we?
No. If town meeting transfers it, town meeting is the one who decides what the care and control.
Right.
So most of that property went to the conservation.
And it was sort of part of the agreement of what it would be
Well,
called.
that's the other piece.
Right.
Something that
Right.
happens.
Sometimes you don't have a choice.
Right.
Well, and sometimes, you know, if it Walkup Robinson funds are used, you have to
Right.
give them, but, I mean, you don't have to name it after Walkup Robinson, but you have to acknowledge them. But I guess.
But a lot of times, if we're purchasing,
We're not gonna have the opportunity to name things that often, so let's get it right and
Yep.
consult as many people as possible, but I just don't wanna have that final decision be, you know, well, we have to have historical commission agree on something, and we have to have record
Right.
agree on that same thing, and all of a sudden we have to get a consensus from 5 different committees before we can take it to a vote. I think
advisory,
that's.
But I'd like to see the language. I think it's, they play an advisory role too. It's an important advisory role, but I don't want to, for like, I have a better word, I don't want to give away the select board's authority on this, so.
no. And it may, I mean, again, it was brought up, it may already fall under F3. I just want to make sure that we, you know, cross the Ts and dot the Is.
Well, I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you.
And this particularly came up in view of the cemeteries.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.
And I think the Historical Commission, Christie, would like to see
Yeah, I was just gonna say,
your
I'll email
policy.
you a copy of the policy and Christian.
Great, thank you very much.
And so it's how many names, did we say?
What?
I mean, how many people have to sign a?
25.
So, Chris, you have to get 25 signatures
No,
in
but-
order to suggest a name.
No, they don't.
Unless
though.
it comes
Not
from
even
another
saying
board.
what
Not under C,
Oh,
'cause they're a
as
committee.
the historical commission just has to vote on it.
Correct.
So you don't have to be out there pounding the streets as much as you like it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
I forgot
Thanks for
about
being patient with us too.
Yeah.
Okay, item, so I think we just put that on the next agenda. If we can, if we have time, if you
The
can.
naming.
Yeah, this one,
Policy?
just
Yeah.
the policy and
Yep.
keep moving it forward. Intermunicipal transfers,
I have two.
okay?
So one is to transfer $14,000 from select board wages to central purchasing. Central purchasing has a balance currently of about $5,000. The majority, the overage is really due to postage. We sent out this year, we sent out the stormwater bills separately. Next year, they'll be incorporated into the other utility bills. And we have money available in select board wages because we weren't unable due to budget cuts to fill the management analyst position. So $14,000 from select board wages to central purchasing.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Okay, you don't need like numbers, like usually it's
Account
from
numbers.
such and such account to say no.
No.
Okay.
All those in favor? 5-0, 5 being present.
And both of these were taken up by the AFC last night, and they voted. That one was 8-0-1. There's sort of one abstention because they came into the meeting after the discussion had happened. And then this one is $55,000 from police salary and wages to expenses, and that is a result of vacancies that we've had in the police department. That has resulted in the savings. The overage in expenses is due to the startup costs of bringing on new police officers. I think it's about $11,000 to start up a new police officer, including sending them to the academy.
And how did AFC vote?
They voted 9-0-0.
So I would move to approve the transfer from police salary and wages to police expenses in the amount of $55,000.
Second.
Okay, any comments or questions? All those in favor? It's 5-0, 5 being present. So again, Mark, just because you're new, these are things that we can do in the last 2 months of the year, so we'll
Yeah.
have this on the agenda for
Yeah,
every.
Christie brought me up to speed on that.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay, town manager report.
So for the May meeting schedule, we have tonight's meeting. May 20th, we have an evening meeting, which is a joint meeting with the planning board to select an interim appointment. You should have received that packet yesterday.
Yeah.
And then Tuesday, May 27th is your regular meeting as well. We don't currently have any plans for a morning executive session at this point. If that changes, you'll get an email. We have 2 earmarks in the FY26 House budget, so it's moving through the process, but just for the board's awareness, one is $12,126 for AED machines for patrol cruisers. We're currently short 6 AED machines, and so this would fund those machines. And then the other is $70,000 for the Piccadilly Brook bridge replacement. So as you're aware, in the spring of 24, the bridge structure over Piccadilly Brook, which is just below the Upton Road, failed. And so you did approve some ARPA funding to purchase the bridge, which we were able to do, but the installation has come back a lot higher than expected, so about $70,000 on the high end. And the delegation chose to include that in the earmark.
For how much?
70,000. Yep. Yep. The police department is honored to be one of only 3 departments nationwide selected for a pilot program aimed at strengthening how law enforcement works with community partners to co-create public safety, address hate crimes, and build meaningful ties with residents. They are doing so with Movement Forward, Inc., the organization behind National Faith and Blue Weekend and the Professionalizing Law Enforcement Community Engagement Training National Conference. As part of that effort, an anonymous online survey started going out in March, which was created. Researchers will be analyzing the responses in addition to other data to support the Move Forward and Faith and Blue to identify successes, challenges, and barriers. Workshops will be developed to build tools for the officers. Insights gathered will not only inform how to improve the department's outreach, but will also help develop tools that the agencies across the country can use to foster stronger relationships. Public Works Department excavation of water curb stops begins this week as part of the lead service line inventory. A small hole will be excavated, the pipe material will be documented, and the hole will be filled. DPW will return loam and seed to the site if in the grass, or pave if in the sidewalk or driveway. The DPW, as part of the MVP Action Grant, is sponsoring a contest with Mill Pond 6th grade teachers to create a video related to aquifer recharge and water conservation. So they'll be reviewed later this month. The tree warden and his team planted a tree at Mill Pond last week and provided education on tree care and the importance of trees in the community. Activity associated with the replacement of a culvert on Bowman Lane is expected to begin in June. Initial steps will include establishing bypasses for the water and sewer lines, including the existing culvert. Signs will update drivers on traffic adjustments and the closure of the road later in the summer. And then the drought status in Central Mass was adjusted to normal as a result of recent rain. However, outdoor watering restrictions remain in place for Westborough. So no outdoor watering between 9 and 5. In anticipation of the warmer, higher water use months ahead. That's it.
Christy, was all this in our packet?
No. The town
Did
manager.
you send it? Or go ahead.
What's that?
You emailed it to us separately? Or?
I don't know if Celia emailed it to you.
It
also gets posted to the town's website.
I just want to review it because you went quick and.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great. Thank you, Christy. Next, item 18, we have a bunch of meeting minutes, April 1st, 4th, 8th, and 10th. Thank you, Celia, for putting those together. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the meeting minutes of April 1st, 2025, April 4th, 2025, April 8th, 2025, and April 10th, 2025.
Second?
Any comments or corrections?
Look good.
Okay. None? All those in favor? 5-0, 5 being present. Now we go to issues and correspondence of the select board.
We just have Mark do it.
Yeah, just Mark. Yeah,
Mark,
go ahead.
why don't you start?
All right.
What do you got left over, Mark?
All right. The Affordable
Crumbs.
Housing Trust met last week and appointed me as their representative to the Community Preservation Committee. So I'm not only the Select Board liaison to that Community Preservation Committee, but now I'm a voting member, and I have to reach out to the chairs and the admin to get, up to speed on that. I don't even know yet when the next meeting is, so
Great, okay.
We talked about the planning board, we talked about downtown improvement, we talked about the library, the farmers markets. Okay, so the Mass Turnpike is closing for 2 weekends at the end of the month, May 30th to June 2nd and June 20th to 23rd.
Not the whole Mass Turnpike.
The Mass Turnpike in Weston. So if you're going into Boston either of those weekends, it's going to be
Hell.
very bad. The commuter rail is actually, I believe they're making people get off the commuter rail, taking a bus and bringing them to a stop on the other side of it. So it's May 30th to June 2nd and June 20th to 23rd to facilitate the Newton Weston Bridge Replacement and Rehab Project. So just plan ahead if you want to go into the Red Sox those weekends, if they're home, I don't even know, or anything in
Traveling
town.
in Logan
It's a big one.
Yeah, if you're going to Logan, find an alternate route. Helicopter, whatever.
Logan Express.
I'm a little disappointed because I actually had to struggle to find details on the Memorial Day parade. So this is my first one as a select board member. I'm feeling very honored at having been invited to participate, but I don't see anything on the town website or calendar yet. It's still a little ways off, I guess, but my understanding is 8 o'clock on Memorial Day. We all know when that is. Meet at the Knights of Columbus, board buses to go to the cemeteries, and then 10 o'clock the parade will start, and 10:30 there'll be presentations at the Forbes building. I hope we can all attend, including everybody watching at home.
Yeah, just to be clear, that 8:30 is for Veterans Select Board to take
again,
buses up. So
my first one, so
Yep.
I'm not sure if it's open to the public
No.
or anything. So
the public would be welcome to be
Parade.
at the parade or in St. Luke's. It's private, but we do go up there, and they typically hold a mass
okay,
up
so
there. But
thanks for clarifying that because again, I didn't know the answer to that. And last but not least, I believe the Public Art Committee is still accepting interested parties to serve on the formation of, or not the formation of that committee, but to serve on that committee and to decide and make recommendations on the future of public art in town. And I believe that's all I have.
great, thank you, Mark. Shelby.
Yeah, great. So speaking of veterans, I just want to make folks aware that the Veterans Advisory Board will be placing flags on the Rotary. They place them at various times of the year, and then they remove them, and they rely on volunteers to do that. So they'll do that for Memorial Day, 4th of July, and Veterans Day. There are already flags placed at the various cemeteries. So if you are interested in helping to place flags on the Rotary, that first opportunity is Saturday, May 17th. It takes about an hour with some amazing volunteers. You can reach out to the Veterans Advisory Board. Really a question, Christy, at some point, I think it would be helpful for the board to have an update on the beach status. Happened to be driving by there recently. Looks like it just needs to be kind of scraped and maintained, like there's a lot of grass growing through the sand. So I'm wondering kind of where are we at with maintenance of that, and where are we at with staffing for lifeguards, as well as the plan to open the beach, porta potties, all that accessibility. So that's probably on someone's schedule, but would love an update to this board at some point. Historically, in the past, this board has supported a proclamation for the month of June being Pride Month. I would request on behalf of the board that we have that opportunity to make that proclamation at our next meeting. That would be in time for that. If the board is so supportive, I'm happy to take the lead on that. And that is all. We already talked about farmers market, and I think that's it.
Can I ask a question about that? Yes. What were the times on the Rotary flag?
Sorry, let me just pull it up. Saturday morning, May 17th, 2025 at 9 a.m.
Because I believe there's been some organized protest efforts in the Rotary. Is there still going to be room for those, or?
Not if their flags are there.
Right, so I'm a little concerned about that. 'Cause I'm not sure what to do about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess my message to people who are protesting is that they respect the flag that's there and maybe find a different place to protest.
Right, okay.
You know?
No, I agree with that.
Yeah,
I just
yeah,
not sure what kind of outreach we can do to those people
Um,
organizing, but
Aren't those protests typically taking place? Well, I know it's varied, but I feel like it's been during the weekdays. Is it also weekends?
I believe they're doing
Weekends,
Saturday
2
morning,
Saturdays,
10 to
isn't it?
12.
Okay.
You know,
Maybe it's a respect
I
to
haven't
flags.
been to one, so I don't know. I mean, last Saturday was pretty rainy, but
I may know. I'm not sure that they are the organizers, but
I've seen some stuff on Facebook,
Yeah.
so maybe we can just.
Yeah. I'm
reach
happy
out
if I see it. I'm happy to post that. You know.
I mean, that's this Saturday, so
Yeah.
I don't mind showing up
Yeah.
and helping with the flags and then talking to any
Yeah,
protesters.
but
that
then
come
they'll
in.
be there, right? The flags are going to be there through Memorial Day, so it's going to be a while.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if there's an alternate spot we can suggest that people do there. You know, I don't want to inhibit
It's just a couple
people's.
weeks, right?
It
I don't want to
is.
inhibit
No, I know.
inhibit people's right and
Right.
you know, freedom of speech, right? I mean,
Well,
the Rotary has traditionally been where you do protest.
so we can't really discuss this right now because it's not like an agenda item, but I will say to Mark's point, it has been brought up to at least, I'm aware of at least two of us about concern with use of the Rotary during high traffic hours as a place of public protest. And I'm not stating my opinion one way or another, but I don't know if that's anything that this board at some point wants to take up or should take up or can take up.
Yeah.
I don't, again, I know we're not discussing it. I'm making.
Public
the-
property. They're not.
It's public property, so, right. So I guess just for clarification then, Christy, like the sidewalks are public property too, right? So those are other places where people could stand and protest.
Yeah, or walk. I mean, I do know, I have seen folks from B'nai Shalom on Saturdays march into town on the sidewalks.
Okay.
And
People
walk
have done
back,
it
so-
on the town hall steps.
Yep.
I
Yep.
mean,
Yep, okay, public property,
Yeah.
got it, yep.
John.
Anyway, that's all I have, thanks.
So, as the rep to the Council on Aging and the Library Building Committee, they both spoke here today, so I think I'm covered. A reminder, the library closes tomorrow night, and then target is to open June 2nd in the community center.
Everyone's welcome to the community center.
Yes, we look forward to seeing everyone.
Patrick?
I just have one update. I attended my first rec committee meeting. The golf course membership, glad to report, is maxed out, so they've achieved that goal. The junior memberships, there was still some room on junior memberships. Between 30 and 40 slots were still available. The membership's 306, if I can read my handwriting correctly, 306 adult members and currently 59 junior members. But hopefully that'll continue to expand. So that's great news there. And then I guess I just had a question. I was looking for the capital expenditures next meeting. They haven't met since March.
they don't meet until the fall.
Okay, so the next one's in the fall. Okay, so that's what I wanted to know.
Great. There's a couple things. Oops.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. There's one thing I just wanted to apologize to everybody because the Tuesday planning board meeting to rename my replacement on the planning board, the joint meeting between this board, and I will not be here. It's my son's college graduation.
Congratulations.
Which I'm excited about, but I'm extremely disappointed that I cannot participate in the selection of that planning board member. So I hope you all understand. I hope everyone
Completely
understands
understand.
Absolutely.
how disappointing that is.
I think we're disappointed as well, but very excited for you for
Yeah.
Quickly on my side, Trustees of Soldiers Memorial met. Big time for the trustees as preparing for Memorial Day, helping out the veterans. So talked about some of the work that's been done and expenditures of funds, most notably the name wrong, but basically the brass covering of the memorials for Vinnie Lee right in the corner of School Street. If folks get a chance to look, they look great. So that was done under the Trustees of Soldiers Memorial. And they've been doing some work, and thanks to the Garden Club, around the memorials across the street. Those look really good for Memorial Day. And then they spent the time talking about the new Veterans Memorial that will go into the new cemetery on Nurse Street. That has been designed and ordered and should be coming in the next month or so. But just to note that the new flagpole that was going in there, that will be part of the cemetery, but also part of that area, top piece, that actually was installed last week. So if you drive by, you can see a beautiful white flagpole in the middle. So things are definitely moving forward on that. But that was discussion points in the trustees meeting. Development team, Christy mentioned that. We had a good meeting. We're kind of kicking it off, but it's really specifically starting to talk about roles and responsibilities. We've used BWALT as an example, but it's not talking about BWALT. It's really talking about broader responsibilities, planning board, select board, and really coming to agreement. I think we've made some really good progress so far, and those will continue. We'll continue meeting as that development team. Finance team, we also kind of talked about a little bit. We did meet as well and are working through a few things there. We did talk about the work going on around the dashboard communities. We also talked about the revisions to the fiscal management policy. So those will continue on in discussions there. Anything missed on the finance team side? Okay.
Well, I guess the Sustainable Westborough proposed an amendment to the policies.
Oh, yes.
And they brought that proposal to the AFC last night. They'll also take it to the school committee. Ultimately, this board needs to approve it. So.
Okay. Some more to come on that. Thank you. I've got that. That is all I had. And I don't believe we have anything for executive session this evening, so you don't have to read anything.
Move to adjourn.
My only
Second.
role is
Yeah.
excellent.
So move to adjourn a second. All those in favor? 5-0, 5 being present. We didn't have to take a roll call vote for the first time in a long time.
I need you to sign these things. So.
Thank you, Westborough TV.
Yes.